But alright, who is going to be the first one here today? Zero here. Who is going to be the first one that's going to talk here? Five here. Who's going to talk first? We know the Lictars may be here first. They like to bitch and moan. I bet you say, oh, we're going to contact Betty Johnson again. Oh, boy. And you guys know I don't give a shit. Come on, Lictars, where you at? Talk today. Is your little bitch want to give you permission to talk, or what's going on? Oh, we hit 5. We're down to 3. We lost 2. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. They must be getting mad at me now. They didn't like me calling little bitch boys. And little Lictars. They may want to go back and cry to fucking mommy. Oh, we got 9. DT might work now. Alright, come on. Who's going to start talking there? Because we got a lot to watch today, man. You guys could start there for a little bit of a second until we can get. I know, the Lictars won't talk right now. Let's go back to get this other. Oh, see, let's go to. I mean, there's a lot, people. There's a lot to watch today. I don't even know where to start. I've got so much. Well, hopefully, get people start talking here. Oh, what's up there, Lictars? How you doing there?
It takes a curious Irish spirit to search the world for.
How's God treating you today? Well, you know, God always treats you always good there. Oh, Jericho's here. We got Jericho, man.
To seek out gunpowder tea in China.
Oh, we get this going, Lictars. Hold on.
In Cambodia.
We gotta get this going.
To find orris root in Morocco. To bring it.
We know Jericho cares. We know you live there, don't.
What's up, guys? Spenny. The nature of evil is banality. It is boastful. It is haughty. It must brag about its crimes. And that's why many criminals get caught. Very few criminals take their crimes to the grave. A lot of them can't help themselves. They just need to tell you about what they've done. And this clip from 6 years ago of James Comey bragging about what he did to Donald Trump and General Flynn, a friend of our show, still makes my blood boil. Listen to this.
I sent them.
How did you entrap Flynn? I sent them.
Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with.
Something I wouldn't have gotten away with? Like, again, these are terms that criminals use to describe their actions.
Investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. In both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals, and who would be there. And I thought, it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
It's early enough. Let's take advantage of the nascent Trump administration and let's destroy a couple people's lives for a hoax. And let's get Flynn out of there, because he's obviously the man who knows where all the bodies are buried, and now those bodies are coming screaming back from the grave. Edgar Allan Poe actually has a great little poem about this, that the blood calls out from the floor or from the locked rooms at the FBI and the burn bags. My goodness, what is this? Kash Patel has found thousands of Trump-Russia probe documents hidden inside of burn bags in a secret room at the FBI. What the hell is this?
Oh,
FBI Director Patel turned the documents over to the Senate Judiciary, Chuck Grassley. Let's read. Exclusive, FBI Director Kash Patel found a trove of sensitive documents related to the origins of the Trump-Russia probe buried in burn bags in a secret room in the Bureau, sources told Fox News. Sources told Fox News Digital that the burn bags is a system that is used to destroy documents designated as classified or higher. Sources told Fox Digital that the multiple burn bags were found filled with thousands of documents. They told Fox News Digital that one of the documents FBI officials found in the bag was classified annex to the former special counsel John Durham's final report, which included the underlying intelligence being reviewed to launch the Russia hoax. More on that in a second. The declassification of the classified annex is being done in close coordination with the CIA Director John Brennan Patel and Tulsi Gabbard and Pam Bondi and Acting National Security Agency Director William Hartman. Goodness. The declassification annex will be transmitted to the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, Chuck Grassley, who will ultimately release the document to the public. Sources exclusively briefed Fox News Digital on some of the contents of the classified annex, including that the U.S. intelligence community had credible foreign sources indicating that the FBI would play a role in spreading the alleged Trump-Russia collusion narrative before the Bureau ever launched its controversial Crossfire Hurricane probe. This is something that, of course, Dan Bongino warned about this week inside of the properly predicated investigation here in his strike force capacity is something that shook him to the core. And that'll never be the same again. And this is what he's witnessed. What he's witnessed is the full force of the FBI being used to push Russian disinformation. And that's what it was. Hillary Clinton's entire campaign was Russian disinformation. A source familiar with the contents of a classified annex told Fox News Digital, while it may not have been clear at the moment what the intelligence collection meant, the benefit of hindsight, it predicted the FBI's next move with alarming specificity. Ultimately, the release of the classified annex will lead to more credibility to the assertion that there was a coordinated plan inside of the U.S. government to help the Clinton campaign stir up controversy connecting Trump to Russia. So they have him, man. Mere days after this intelligence was collected, the FBI launched Crossfire Hurricane, and this is the investigation into Trump. It's really hard to see how Brennan, Clapper, and Comey are going to be able to explain this away. Sources told Fox News Digital that Patel and his team have uncovered a previously undisclosed sensitive compartment information facility, SCIF, inside of FBI headquarters. Fox News Digital reached out to previous FBI directors, Christopher Wray and James Comey. They have not received comments. Patel said in a podcast in June with Joe Rogan that revealed he found a room of documents and computers that no one had ever seen or heard of.
This is the director of the FBI, the former Russiagate guy, when I first got to the Bureau, found a room that Comey and others hid from the world in the Hoover Building, full of documents and computer hard drives that no one had ever seen or heard of. Locked the key and hid access and just said, no one's ever going to find this place.
What?
Yeah. So my guys are going through that right now.
What's in there?
A lot of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. People are like, well, okay, go arrest him. And I'm like, okay, well, how about you let me run a methodical investigation while I give over information?
Dan Bongino has also said, listen, we found a locked room full of criminal information and evidence.
At least, and not mentioned to us.
And then we found stuff in there, and a lot of it's from the Comey era, and we are working our damnedest right now to declassify. And just so you know, because I get the public, I totally understand people saying, well, do it now. The process is not all the information is ours to declassify. Some is other intelligence agencies. It's not, we literally can't do it. Once that gets done and that gets out there and you read some of the stuff we found that, by the way, was not processed through the normal procedure, digitizing it, putting in FBI records, we found it in bags, hiding under Jim Comey's FBI. You're going to be stunned.
The shells in bags. Did you hear that? You got to listen closely. We found it in bags. What kind of bags are they? Well, it turns out they were burn bags. Goodness gracious.
Litards. What's going on with that?
Burn bags. Thousands of sensitive. It means that they were trying to destroy it, I suppose. Right? Durham's annex was found in the bag. So what is the Durham annex? This is the underlying evidence for what we are going to see very, very soon on this major issue. Like, what evidence did John Durham find? Listen to this.
I believe that the Durham annex would show that FBI officials knew the Clinton campaign planned this all along.
Not only that, Sean, the Clinton annex is going to show there was foreign intelligence. A foreign enemy had determined that the FBI had agreed to be the accelerant, that they were going to be conspirators joining with Hillary Clinton to give credence to her fake narrative. And that's exactly what happened. When people see what the foreign intelligence is and then how the FBI acted, it matches extremely closely. This is a bombshell Senator Grassley is going to release as early as tomorrow.
Great investigation.
Want to try tirzepatide?
So this is tirzepatide, and it is the #1 weight loss.
Great investigation.
Ladies and gentlemen, the foreign enemy is going to be Russia, and the bombshell is going to be that Russian spies wrote the Steele dossier in order to kneecap Trump, and that our own federal government used foreign disinformation from America's enemies. That's how much they hated Donald Trump. Cash Patel. Thousands of Russia collusion documents. The conspiracy is getting deeper. We need arrests. This is what everybody is saying. We need to see criminal indictments. Kash Patel helped expose Russiagate the first time, and now as FBI director, he's found what previous leadership tried to hide: a burned bag of Trump-Russia documents. Durham Annex is declassified. Thousands of sensitive burned bags. Start arresting people.
Yep.
Now this all makes sense. This has shocked me to my core, says Dan Bongino. We can't run a country like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. And then Dan Bongino points us to what he's talking about. And this report is just simply saying that the intelligence community assessment on Russia is the exact opposite of the story. The story was that Donald Trump worked with Russia to rig the 2016 election. It was actually Hillary Clinton working with Russian spies in order to rig the election against Trump with the help of our FBI and CIA. So we'll see. They're saying that these documents will be released in the next 48 hours, potentially. And that this is going to be... is hinting that it could be Hillary Clinton next. CIA chief teases evidence in the long-running Russiagate hoax, and then stating effectively that this is an ongoing conspiracy. So there's no statute of limitations. So you can still charge these people, right? Conspiracy never wrapped. Donald Trump on his first day in the Oval Office, he knew what was coming. Where's Comey? Where's McCabe? Peter Strzok? Lisa Page? Here's Comey out here, admitting to seditious conspiracy with a smile on his face. Now they got him. Now they got the documents. They've been revealed to the public. The truth shall set you free. Bombshell stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody will ever forgive unless there are massive arrests and criminal indictments here. And you gotta make sure you indict these people outside of D.C. because they'll get away with it. If you do it in D.C., you gotta indict them in Florida or Texas. Find a way to do it. It's a complicated issue, but it's one that has to be solved.
Okay, we know Mom
And that's what we're all about here on this channel. You should join us. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. More truth, salt, and light. See ya.
Let's get the next one. I might have to go out there and do it. We'll see. Maybe see if we're gonna play it. I had it saved there for later to watch. Yeah, I already seen that one.
Look at what this doctor said on a podcast.
Just one glass of this recipe before bed, and you're...
Hillary Clinton is in big trouble as
oh boy.
New information is coming out from the CIA and the ODNI office. President Trump has solved 6 wars in 6 months and ups the pressure on Russia to end the Russia-Ukraine war. Plus, RFK Jr. shares some interesting information about health corruption that I believe you'll want to know. Thank you so much for liking and sharing these videos, also hitting that subscribe button. Let's jump right into the news. President Trump has brokered 6 major peace deals and ceasefires over the last 6 months. In a meeting with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, President Trump remarked, now this would be 6 wars in the last few months. That's like averaging 1 a month. So he started a ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia, where over 150,000 people had been displaced in a battle. He stopped the 12-day war. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, 30 years of war. A ceasefire between India and Pakistan, right as they were making threats of nuclear weapons. Yemen and the Houthis, and Egypt and Ethiopia. So dozens of people calling for President Trump to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, including the foreign minister of Rwanda, Israel, and many big names here in the United States. In a tragic event last night, a gunman opened fire in a lobby of a Manhattan skyscraper at 345 Park Avenue, killing 4 people and critically wounding another. Among the victims was 36-year-old off-duty NYPD officer Didarul Islam. He had been on the force for 3.5 years. He was originally an immigrant from Bangladesh. He was married, has 2 young sons, and his daughter was expecting their 3rd child. These 3 other victims, 2 men and a woman, have not been publicly identified. This is really horrible. The shooter, identified as Shane Tamura from Nevada, arrived in a black BMW, entered the building with an M4 rifle, opened fire before heading to the 33rd floor, where he killed another person and then took his own life. Surveillance footage captured the entire incident, and police later found additional weapons inside his car, which had been driven across the country. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch and Mayor Eric Adams Tamura, who had a documented history of mental illness, went to the NFL main offices there, feeling that he was there specifically because he was mad about the NFL. He was a star football player in Nevada and ended up not going much further in his football career. Now, CNN kept telling their viewers that this was a white person that had done this, that this was a white person. Well, it wasn't. It was this guy from New York, and my guess is he had bad feelings towards the NFL. In a Fox News broadcast, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana argued that his colleagues would immediately be calling for more gun control. He said on Capitol Hill, probably beginning this morning, there will be the inevitable call for some of my colleagues for more gun control. We've got hundreds of gun control laws, maybe thousands. We don't need more gun control. We need more idiot control.
Yeah,
so this is a tragedy. It always leads to a battle between the Republicans and the Democrats on their opinions about guns. At the end of the day, people lost their lives, and it's a very, very tragic situation. President Trump said something we've all been thinking. He said Tulsi Gabbard is by far changing the country. I want to show you a clip from a recent podcast interview that the president did.
And it really started right at the 2016 election. And there's a difference when you know it and when you know it and it's all written down for you. I mean, it's all there. It's right there. The orders, the memos, the whole thing is right there.
Were you surprised when you saw it all laid out?
I would have thought they maybe would have thrown it out. I don't know. They handed it. They say, put this in highly classified. It was in highly classified, in areas that normally you wouldn't get to. But I guess when you put it in there, it's a file, right? And they got to it. And it's unbelievable. When you read it, it's unbelievable. A real hoax, it's a real hoax. If they would devote their time to winning elections, or if they devote their time to greatness, making America great again, it would be because there's a certain genius to it, but it's also sick. Yes. They're sick. And you look at Hillary Clinton, you look at all of the terrible things with the Steele dossier, and you know it better. Nobody's covered it better than you, to be honest with you. I mean, you're sitting here so innocently talking to me like, oh, I said it's wonderful. You know the story better than I do. But it's incredible. It's all there now. It's in writing. And Tulsi's done a great job. There were some people that really wanted Tulsi. They thought she was going to do a fantastic job. And when you look, a lot of people would not have found it. They wouldn't have found it to be politically correct to find it. Okay, it would be easier not to.
And she's tough.
And she's tough, and she's smart, and she did. She went deep into the files, and she found it. And what it says is just terrible. Look, this was an attempted coup. It was a failed coup. I mean, I get to be here. We are him talking as president of the United States. So,
All right, so one of his best picks.
3 huge reasons why you should definitely avoid using this on your hair. In just 2 weeks, it made my hair grow like crazy.
All right, so one of his best picks. She has this determined attitude. She is the reason that they found the needle in the haystack. Now, why these guys didn't just destroy evidence is beyond me. Like, that would have been a much smarter move. Destroy the evidence. Instead, they tried to hide it, a safe within a safe. And as he said, they kept pushing it up the classification so that at some point, only somebody in CIA or the top of the FBI or the president of the United States himself could find it. They did a good job of hiding it, but why not just destroy it? It's absolutely crazy. This really did destroy the country. Now, regarding the new Russia collusion story with Barack Obama at the head, John Solomon from Just the News said even more been seen before. Some of it is unbelievable, and a lot of it points to Hillary Clinton. He believes Hillary Clinton. We'll see what happens, but let me go ahead and play this video for you.
It's coming this week. I think you'll see it in the next 2 or 3 days. I asked President Trump about this in our interview last week on Just the News, No Noise. Would you be willing to release the classified annex of the John Durham report? He said, absolutely. He told John Ratcliffe, go declassify the classified annex, and John Ratcliffe is in the process of doing that. It'll come out through DNI and through Chuck Grassley, Senator Grassley, who, like me, have been fighting for this annex for several years. Here's what it's going to show. We already established that Barack Obama and John Brennan knew in early July 2016 that Hillary Clinton was concocting a fake Russia collusion story to try to harm Donald Trump's chances of winning. We're now going to have absolute emphatic evidence that the FBI, the people who open up on Donald Trump, on Carter Page, on George Papadopoulos, they also knew that Hillary Clinton was pulling this dirty trick, and they were playing into it. They were using the Steele dossier, a direct product of the Clinton campaign. They were using people like an Australian ambassador named Downer, who was a good friend of the Clintons. All these people were part of that dirty trick. And the FBI knew before they opened up, and as they were opening up, and as they were continuing, that Hillary Clinton was behind this. That is what that annex is expected to show all of us. I think it'll be out as early as Thursday.
It's going through declassification. Is that what the issue is?
Right now. Yeah, it's going through declass. It's highly sensitive because it involves an intelligence center. found out that Hillary Clinton had ordered this dirty trick and was going to hang this fake Russian shingle on Donald Trump's campaign house. So there are some methods and sources that are going to have to be protected, but everybody was in on the fix. They knew in advance Hillary was doing this, and rather than say, let's not abuse the intelligence system, they did the opposite. They played in, they leaned in. And that's why when you talk about people like Susan Miller or you talk about Pete Strzok, Ronald Reagan said 40 years ago, his administration coined the term, people are policy. And the left have embedded their people in government. They withstand elections and they last beyond it. And those people ended up creating the intelligence policies that created a false dirty trick on the American people. That's why this is so important. And thus far, despite all of our outrage, we haven't fixed the problem.
All right, let me know in the comments, do you want to see how Barack Obama and the CIA, the FBI, how they intercepted this fake story that Hillary Clinton concocted and then presented to Barack Obama, and then Barack Obama said, okay, we're embarrassed, we lost, we've got to take this away from Donald Trump. I bet she wants to know how they caught her. I bet she's been scratching her head like, okay, they haven't put me in jail yet, but how did they get this? I would like to know that. He regrets not doing something against Hillary Clinton. When it was presented that he could have had her arrested, indicted, and thrown in jail, he said he felt it would hurt the country and that it was wrong. Now he says that he was wrong, that it actually would have been the kinder, better thing to do for the United States. Let me go ahead and play that because I found this fascinating. And I personally, I would love to see Hillary Clinton arrested and hauled off because she nearly destroyed the country. She then got the President of the United States to go along with it. Oh, what does that sound like? That sounds like Watergate, right? Richard Nixon didn't do Watergate. He tried to cover it up. He tried to smooth it over. That's what got him in trouble, and that's what should get Barack Obama in trouble. But I believe Hillary, she's got big problems coming her way.
Yeah, so, we had Hillary Clinton down to whatever we wanted to do with her, and I felt it was inappropriate. She's the wife of a president. She was the Secretary of State, and we could have done a very big number.
Yeah.
And I said, we don't want to be doing that. Let's, put it into the country and not the concept of putting her in jail, indicting her, all the things that you have to do. It's tough stuff. And I said, we don't want to do that. In fact, you remember I made speeches when I mentioned her name. They started, lock her. Yeah. And I said, no, this is after we won. We just won. And I said, we have to get back to, we want to heal. And yet they did it to me.
Yeah.
So I feel differently. I mean, I'm a human being. I have my feelings too. And so I feel differently about it. Obama, what he did was terrible. What Brennan did and Clapper and Comey and all these lightweights, they're stupid people, actually. But what they did, and so unnecessary. And they made it.
Oh, boy.
I know how it feels to be overweight or laughed at because of belly fat. But what if a simple glass of cold water can solve all of these?
Come on. Let's go.
Stupid people, actually. But what they did, and so unnecessary. And they made it really hard. But ultimately, I don't know, they toughen you up. You either learn that you can do that. How many people could handle that?
Yeah.
I've had so many people say, how do you handle that every day? And they come up with these different scams. They're all scams, and they're still doing it. They're doing it now.
I wish he would have answered that, but the video ran out, right? Like, how did you handle that? Like, I have had so much respect for President Trump's courage. Let me know in the comments, do you think we are going to see something happen to Hillary Clinton? I mean, he said it right there. I regret it, but look at what they all tried to do to me. Regret not doing something, right? So I think we might see something crazy. Now, I want to share something with you. Have these repair crews that are floating around in your body called stem cells. They can fix joints, organs, injuries, your spine. But in the U.S., stem cell therapy is mostly illegal, not because it's unsafe, but because it threatens big pharma. But there are clinics overseas that charge $25,000, $50,000. Down in Panama, it's $100,000. But listen to what Ronnie Coleman, Mr. Olympia 8 times, had to say about stem cells, because it's pretty wild.
Rogan, he wanted to refer you to stem cells.
For the last 2 years, I've been getting stem cells, and it's been the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life.
Really?
Yeah, but you gotta go out of this country to do it, because they don't really allow the real stem cells that come from the placenta,
Yeah.
They don't allow that here in the United States because politics.
What exactly is stem cells? So my understanding is that they're like blank cells. They can transform to anything you surround themselves with, they'll turn into that. So if you inject them in your leg, they'll turn into leg cells.
It wipes out the pain I go through, because I have a herniated disc in my upper back still. As soon as I get the stem cell injection, it completely goes away.
And how much is it?
$2,800
per
injection.
Where do you go?
Guadalajara, Mexico.
All right, so Mr. Olympia, his body's all beat up from lifting weights and going through all that. He's saying stem cells absolutely changed my life. Now, stem cells can heal joints, repair your spine, reverse organ damage, but in the United States, it's a banned therapy because it conflicts with big pharma. But here's some good news. There are ways to get your own stem cells to wake up and go and fix your body. One of those ways is through cocoa flavanol. And our sponsor, Black Forest, they have one. Now, this isn't milk chocolate. This is a specific type of cocoa powder. And studies show that if you eat this, if you drink this, that the stem cells come out of your bone marrow and repair your body. Now, I want you to hear from a Harvard scientist about exactly how this works.
To show that the flavanols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow like bees in a beehive in your bloodstream, and they go out and they find wherever it needs to be repaired. If it's in your heart, they'll fix it. If it's in your liver, they'll fix it. If it's your skin, they'll fix it. And so we can eat foods like high flavanol cocoa in order to be able to actually get the stem cells to work a little bit better. Now, how do we know this actually functions, works in people? Well, clinical studies have been done with high flavanol cocoa to show that in like men who are in 2 cups of dark chocolate hot cocoa a day for a month. And they doubled the amount of stem cells in their bloodstream, and their circulation improved measurably. And then what's even more important and impressive is that there was a study called the Cosmos study that was completed recently that showed that eating high flavanol cocoa decreases the risk of cardiovascular death. Right, over a period of like a statin. Exactly. Except maybe by eating the same thing that you use to make chocolate. So we're not telling people to go out to have chocolate, which is a confection. It's got a lot of sugar and all kinds of other stuff in it. But it's the stuff underlying it.
All right. So isn't that crazy? You could double the amount of stem cells in your body, improve your cardiovascular, heal your heart. I mean, all kinds of incredible things. So it's a specific type of dark chocolate. Flavanols are the good stuff found in the cocoa bean, but they're almost always destroyed in the sugary chocolate making process. That's where Black Forest Supplement comes in with the first ever high flavanol cocoa powder, packed with everything your body actually needs. It's only 20 calories. You can mix it into hot chocolate, a protein shake, coffee. It tastes amazing. Now, this isn't regular cocoa. It's stem cell fuel, as you heard from the Harvard scientist. By drinking this, you can actually double the amount of stem cells and have an incredible healing within your own body. Now, for the next 48 hours, you're going to get up to 40% off. I'm going to leave a link in the description and the pinned comment down below. All right, continuing on the health topic, Miriam, someone that I follow on X, recently did 8 takeaways from a Joe Rogan podcast with Dr. Mary Bowden, one of the most censored doctors in America.
Wait, if you were detained at any Illinois juvenile detention facility, this is the money glitch that's getting former detained
doctors in America during the stupid lockdowns. In this interview, she reveals some really incredible and disturbing things. Number one, during COVID, hospitals were using high doses of morphine to kill patients that didn't complain about pain. They just needed the beds. Dr. Bowden reviewed patient charts showing people with zero pain were given lethal doses of morphine or insulin. This isn't part of the treatment protocol, and she's calling for an investigation. Number two, the ivermectin smear campaign was planned. The FDA purposely put it out as horse dewormer on the same COVID media fund. Ivermectin is a Nobel Prize winning medicine, and illegal immigrants that were coming into but you were told to get the vaccine and to avoid ivermectin. Number three, monoclonal antibodies worked so well, they banned them because people weren't dying, and CNN and others, they needed this narrative to uphold and give Biden power. Now, these saved lives. If you remember, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, he approved these, and their numbers decreased overnight. Things got so much better. The government realized this and then made it illegal or restricted them, and people were dying. Breathing treatments were banned. Butylidine, which helped patients to breathe better, were banned. Why? So that they could put people on ventilators, which then overexpanded and exploded their lungs. Number five, medical boards became a weapon. Doctors who challenged the narrative were hunted down, shamed, embarrassed, or had their practice or medical license revoked. In fact, Dr. Bowden, 3 years later, is still fighting the Texas Medical Board for her license. Six, vaccine injuries are real and ignored. Dr. Bowden sees 6+ new vaccine injured patients every single week. Many of them have 10 times the healthy level of antibodies, and some of them were vaccinated 4 years ago. It's crazy. 16,000 people signed up for assisted suicide in Canada instead of going through getting COVID. They literally scared people into unaliving themselves legally with the government's assistance. Number 8, this is scary. 500+ new mRNA shots are in the works. 33 of them have been identified as self-amplifying, meaning they go into your body and they actually create this factory that produces more and more mRNA. That's exactly the problem that we're having right now, is that some people 700 days later still have massive amounts of mRNA and spike protein floating around in their body. Now, RFK Jr. made some interesting comments on this, and I want to show these to you because I think that this information is really, really helpful. So let me bring that to the stage and we'll watch it together.
I mean, those companies, we have a free market system in this country, and part of that is that there's consequences if you make a bad product. And, vaccines are particularly exempt from that because there's no free market economy. Normally, if you get poisoned by Coca-Cola, you can stop drinking Coca-Cola. You'll have to take that vaccine to get into the school. If your doctor tells you your child will die because, he can look and see what happened to elder siblings, there's some kind of genetic vulnerability that's affected the older siblings, and the doctor wants to tell you your third child should not take this vaccine, he's going to be punished for that. And also the schools won't let you go to school no matter what. So in New York and California, there's not only no religious exemptions, there's no philosophical exemptions, but there also effectively is no medical exemption. So these kids, it's mandated, and because it's mandated, there's no market forces that tell you, that allow you, if you don't like the product, if you have reservations about it, you can't stop using it. You got to take it anyway. So the things that and then, you have, of course, the mainstream media is bought and brain dead when it comes to these issues. They will not criticize, they will not report vaccine injury. The Congress is very with the So you have none of the market forces that apply and make other products safe. There is zero incentive for these companies to make them safe. And they don't get punished for it in the market. They don't get punished for it in the court. And so, what we're going to try to do is to make sure that the parents who do get injured get compensation, that they get it very quickly, and they get it without the kind of adversarial impediments that have now been erected over the past 40 years.
Oh boy, are you paying attention?
If you have dementia, you should never drink warm water. Almost no one knows this, but Alzheimer's and dementia have...
All right. Can you imagine a product that can be forced on you that has no legal recourse, complete and total immunity? So billions and billions of dollars forced out of the government, out of the American people, out of insurance providers, no legal recourse if you're damaged. So RFK Jr. is saying no more. They've got to build a better product, and there's got to be a way to go after them. Otherwise, there's zero incentive to make vaccines and drugs better. There's just not. So hopefully this thing will get turned around very quickly. All right, now the last thing that I wanted to share with you, President Trump says, why did I give Putin and Russia 50 days? If they don't end this war in the next 10 days, we're going to hit them with some really hard tariffs. Listen to what President Trump had to say.
I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. There's no reason in waiting. There's no reason in waiting. It's 50 days. I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made. If you know what the answer is going to be, why wait? And it would be sanctions and maybe tariffs, secondary tariffs.
Those secondary tariffs would be on superpowers like China and India and Brazil. Is to fund its war effort. The word from the Kremlin and Dmitry Medvedev is ominous. Quote, Trump's playing the ultimatum game with Russia, 50 days or 10. He should remember two things. One, Russia isn't Israel or even Iran. Two, each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. Don't go down the Sleepy Joe road. The president emphasizes he loves the Russian people, but he's not so interested in talking with Putin anymore. And he seemed to be in good spirits, cutting the ribbon at the newest Trump International.
Okay, so Trump wants this war to come to an end. Behind the scenes, this really disturbs him. And somebody pointed out, wait a minute, if you wait 40 more days, there's going to be 4,000 to 40,000 new deaths. And Trump said, forget it. Just hit him in 10 days. So I'll keep you updated on that. That's the one war. He's got 6 to come to an end. It's the one that remains a thorn in his side with the most amount of deaths. All right, that's my update for today. Thanks for stopping by. Love you guys. Stay amazing, and I will see you on the next video.
Pay attention, listeners.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. Joining us now is the Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Secretary Lutnick, thank you so much for taking questions. Talk about this EU trade deal. I know you've been working really hard on it. The president has been leading the charge. This is historic. Please, Secretary Lutnick.
Okay, so in the beginning, you had all these experts who said that Europe would never go for a deal with Donald Trump and America, and this was impossible. And of course, we have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Donald Trump is completely correct about tariffs. So what they agreed to do is 15% across the board. They send us $600 billion a year in goods. This is just goods. So that's going to earn us $90 billion a year. And their $20 trillion economy, remember, they're 450 million people. $20 trillion economy is now open for the first time ever to Americans. So we can sell all our industrial products, we can sell shellfish, we can sell whatever we want to Europe. And I just think this is a complete change of the 80-year mistake of trading policy fixed by Donald Trump in 6.
Quinn had to reveal his greatest secret to protect his girlfriend, a secret that would make her hate him forever.
Quinn, what's wrong?
Nothing.
6 months.
Yeah, and you bring up such a great point. So can you talk about how tariffs and Liberation Day brought us to this? Walk us through the sequencing, because it was unorthodox, it was Trump-like, it was brilliant. But now we have a record trade deal in a way that we've never seen before, where we're now going to have money pouring back into America.
So if you remember, the trade policy of the United States was designed right after World War II, which basically was, let's export the power of the American economy to the rest of the world, build the rest of the world with our economy, and you can put on tariffs to protect yourself, and we'll stand here and export our economics to you. And we'll rebuild Japan after World War II, we'll rebuild Europe, and then we rebuilt it after Korea, we rebuilt it after Vietnam. And, Donald Trump in the mid-'80s started saying, what the heck are we doing? So he had the experience of his first term. He thought about it in between. And when we walked in the door on January 20th, we walked in running. Okay, and that was the key. So he set up the policy right away with me and said, we want to put pressure on the world starting right away. It's our economy. We're the great consumer. Let's put pressure on the world right away. They have to sell to us. The customer is always right. So he put out sharp numbers on April 2nd that caused a shockwave through the world, because he was saying, whether you're an ally or an adversary, you're still not treating us right. And he started the process of the customer is always right, and America is the greatest consumer. $1 trillion that we spend and the rest of the world sells to us. So you should pay fairly, or at least model we started on April 2nd. Then everybody decided they needed to negotiate with us. He took down the tariffs to just 10%, of course, 55% on China total. So we start making about $30 billion a month while we're negotiating. And then in classic Donald Trump fashion, as time went by, the price started going up, right? And he'd say, you can open your market a little, you can open your market some more. And now where we are, if you don't smash open your market entirely to America, Donald Trump's not interested. You can just pass the tariff.
Yeah, and so talk more about specifically what industries in particular are going to see the greatest, let's say, exporting growth or surge. What businesses have been prohibited from being entered into European markets and others that are now going to be liberated? Give some examples, please, of businesses.
I'll give you
that
some
will benefit
fun
from
examples.
this.
I mean, there's so many examples, like lobster, right? You couldn't sell lobster anywhere. So, like when we did the UK deal, they said, okay, we'll invite you over for a lobster dinner. And funny is that? You would say, really? They won't take our lobsters? They won't take our lobsters. They won't take our beef. They won't take our chicken. They won't take our roast. Blocking, and they buy it from other places. They buy it from Brazil, they buy it from Argentina, because we weren't paying attention, right? Products, medical machinery, I mean, you name it. It's just, we were not allowed to sell to them. Cars, right? They all were blocked. They'd have these standards that basically made it so that we couldn't sell there and they could sell here. And now they've agreed in both Europe and Japan and the UK to accept our standards so that we can just take a car, make it in Detroit, and sell it in Europe. And that's just, you can't even imagine what a change that is. That is not a change that was possible without Donald Trump in the White House.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so we have a minute before we welcome back radio here, Secretary Lutnick. How has it been for you personally, kind of through this entire last couple of months? I know you're used to a high-paced environment, but you've been dealing with dozens of different potential trade deals simultaneously. How have you been keeping up with President Trump? By the time the show ends, another American family farm will shut down. Not because they stopped working, but because a lot of grocery store meat doesn't come from them anymore. Over 85% of the grass-fed beef in the U.S. stores is imported, and most people have no idea. That's why I get all of my meat from GoodRanchers.com. Good Ranchers doesn't just sell meat, they guide you back to the source. All Good Ranchers products are 100% born, raised, and harvested in the USA from local family farms. And with summer in full swing, there's nothing better than good food shared with your friends and family. Whether it's burgers by the pool, steaks on the grill, or nuggets for an easy meal, make sure you're serving America's best meat this summer. Plus, if you subscribe to any Good Ranchers box today, you'll get your pick of free meat for life. That's free Wagyu burgers, hot dogs, bacon, or chicken wings in every box for the lifetime of your subscription. And if you use my exclusive code KIRK at checkout, you get extra $40 off your first box. Once again, visit GoodRanchers.com. Use my code KIRK to get your free meat for life plus $40 off. GoodRanchers.com, American meat delivered.
Oh, come on, commercial.
Why are people with neuropathy putting salt on their feet at night?
That's the wrong question. The real question.
What is the real question?
Well, basically, my job is to set the table, right? I negotiate with everybody. I get it all organized, right? If you will, I set the table, and then it's time for Donald Trump to do the deal. So I get the deal as far as I can get it. And when I run out of room, I put the greatest negotiator in the world at the table with the counterparty, like we did with Europe, like we did with Japan, like we've done with each of these deals. And then he gets a better deal than I ever could. And I got to tell you, there's very few things that are as much fun as setting the table for the greatest negotiator, who's also the President of the United States, who just takes it home every time. And the key to Donald Trump is his intuition. He knows how far he can push someone, and he gets it to that point. And it is just, it's a masterclass to watch. And I have the best job because I get to sit next to him and watch him as the greatest negotiator. I set the table, but boy, he makes that meal so amazing. It's just a pleasure.
I want to play cut 328. Even the mainstream media who hates us is bragging on this trade deal. Play cut 328.
The early reviews are in on the new trade deal announced with the European Union. The Financial Times says the deal marks a victory for Trump.
Is this a fantastic deal then struck by Donald Trump?
Absolutely a victory on behalf of the Trump administration.
Isabel, the bottom line is this is the biggest trade deal in President Trump's effort to effectively reshape the global trading order.
On this deal, the European Union, this is a big win for the U.S.
The bigger picture is that Trump is still very much pursuing his longer-term goal of achieving what he perceives to be fairness for America.
It's a triumph of a lot of things. Certainly, the president ought to take a victory lap. I think it ends up being good for the European Union.
I mean, Secretary Lutnick, they're doing my job for me. Your reaction?
Oh, I mean, that's why I have the most fun job in the cabinet. You know, I get to set the table. I mean, I met with the European Union representatives 40 times. And in the beginning, they were basically giving me the middle finger. We were nowhere. They wouldn't even respond to us. And they didn't respond until Donald Trump sent them %. And then all of a sudden that changed, right? And they started responding. And then he sent them another letter saying, look, you guys are doing a little bit, so 30%. And then, boom, off we went until they offered to open their markets completely, pay us 15%. But the key to why they did that is the sectoral tariffs, the tariffs on autos, the tariffs that are coming on pharmaceuticals, the tariffs that are coming on semiconductors, because Donald Trump is the U.S. is the biggest customer in the world. We were going to take all those industries back to America. And basically what he told Europe, if you want to keep half, you better do a deal with me.
And so, Secretary Lutnick, let's also talk about some of the other deals. There was a Philippines deal that came through. What brag on some of the non-EU news, because that kind of went uncovered. The Japanese deal, and these are the Japanese.
We got to talk about Charlie. We have to talk about Japan. We have to talk about Japan.
Tell me about Japan. Japan, they're the toughest negotiators on the planet. Tell us, get us into the room. What was it like being in the room with the stoic Japanese and President Trump? Tell us.
All right, so the Japanese are just not the kind of society that was really going to open their market in the same way. So we had to come up with a new way of thinking about it. And basically what they did is they bought down their tariff, right? They needed their car manufacturing culture. So they couldn't live with a 25% auto tariff. And so they had to buy it down. And so the model was they offered, and this was the structure I came up with, they offered $400 billion, right, and a 50-50 partnership with America. And we could spend that money as the president saw fit on production in America. So if we want to build semiconductors, if we want to build gas turbines, to do power, whatever we want to build in America, the president could decide, and the Japanese would fund all of it with their money, and we'd be 50-50 partners. And that's the table I set when the Japanese came into the room, into the Oval Office to negotiate with Donald Trump. And where did we end up? $550 billion. So $150 billion more, and 90% of the profits go to the American people. So basically, and in exchange for that, the Japanese wanted a 10% reciprocal tariff and 15% on autos. And of course, Donald Trump was able to get 15% across the board. So a better deal than I could ever get. Donald Trump got it. I set the table in what I thought was the coolest deal ever. And Donald Trump turned it into the best and coolest deal ever. So we have $550 billion to choose the industries Donald Trump wants to invest in America, to build them in America. It's so cool. It'll produce more than 100,000 jobs, probably 150,000 jobs, 200,000 jobs directly. It's the coolest deal ever. The European Union is the biggest, and the Japanese deal is the coolest.
Want to try tirzepatide?
So this is tirzepatide, and it is the #1 weight loss
deal ever. The European Union is the biggest, and the Japanese deal is the coolest.
And President Trump is using trade as a way to broker peace in a not even a covered story by the mainstream media. Thailand and Cambodia reach a ceasefire deal to end conflict that displaced over 260,000 people. Talk about how President Trump used tariffs and trade to end a war and the senseless killing of people between Thailand and Cambodia.
All right, so I'm planning on flying over, right? I'm going to Scotland to see the European Union on Sunday, right? And Friday and Saturday, Donald Trump basically gets calls me, calls the trade team. So let's be on the phone. I'm going to make calls. So he calls the head of Cambodia and he says, listen, you're a great country. He's so respectful and he's so kind, but he basically gives them two choices, two paths, right? The path of let's figure out a way to do a ceasefire and I'll do a great trade deal with you and we'll really trade great. And if you can't figure out a way to do a ceasefire, you need to start figuring out how to do your business without the United States of America as your client. You can't do business with America. So choose love or vinegar. He always says honey or vinegar, honey or vinegar. And then he hangs up the phone and the guy says, okay, I'll do a ceasefire. Then he calls Thailand and he says the same thing. And by the way, they each say the other one started. It's all the other one's fault. And the president is respectful. Yep. He's kind, he's warm, he's engaging, but he ends up doing it in a way that basically says, look, I'll do the great trade deal with you and we'll do huge amounts of business together, or really you better find your own way in this world without America, and neither country can afford it. And so what ends up happening is he uses the power of the economics of the United States of America and the incredible thoughtfulness of the way he thinks about things to use the power of our economy to create peace. And look, as I said, no one's having a better time in the cabinet than me because I get a front row seat to watch Donald Trump create peace through the power of the American economy and the power of the American presidency. And you saw it this weekend and they just announced it. I mean, how amazing is that? And you could go over so many deals. Pakistan and India, nuclear powers.
Yep.
Go to peace, right? Rwanda and Congo, right? I mean, you just one after the other after the other. He's using the power of the presidency to create peace.
It's amazing, and this defies all the chattering class of the experts. I want to hit with you. I want to talk about rebates, how wrong they were about tariffs, and then finally I want to ask about China. Number one, is there potentially a rebate, a working class rebate that is being considered? President Trump said yes, we're looking at it. This would definitely come across your desk. What's being talked about here? Can working people possibly get a little bit of rebate because of all the tariff revenue the United States is bringing in?
Exactly. So, you know, when they did the big, beautiful bill, they don't count the tariff revenues. So these tariff revenues are going to be 600, then 700, then 800, then 900. And over the course of his presidency, they could easily hit $1 trillion a year. So the president is thinking about, look, I've created this value, right, from the power of the American economy, from all our people and all their consumption. Why not figure out a way to share some of that money with the people of America? And I'm telling you, he's thinking about it. He hasn't made a decision, but he's thinking about it. He floated it. And you know, the beauty of Donald Trump is... Can you do it without Congress? I don't know. I haven't studied it yet. I've just sat with him and I've listened to him talk about it both publicly and privately. I mean, he's interested. You know, he cares so much about the American people. And this whole reshoring model, right, is going to change our jobs in America from the elite, you know, coastal elite, to the fundamental jobs of America. We're going to create 5 million high-paying, high-tech, the coolest jobs in the world that have never been available to Americans, right? Because they didn't exist in the world, right? There was cheap labor everywhere else in the world. And now, because of automation, we can bring high-tech, cool jobs, vocational jobs, training jobs, technical jobs, jobs that are fun, jobs that are high paying, you know, starting at $75,000 and getting up to multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, not doing gender studies at some East Coast school. That's over. These are the coolest kind of jobs where you're doing manufacturing, you're working, you're proud of what you do, you're working in a clean room, and you're doing the coolest tech jobs. And those 5 million jobs are coming to America. And Donald Trump's going to do it. And he may, I know he's kicking around the idea of a down payment to America to show them where America's going.
So, Secretary, I know you've been working on this. It's been publicly reported, but it's the big one. It is the major prize. China, little whispers here or there. What can we expect? What are you able to tell us publicly about the discussions between U.S.-China trade relations?
So the talks are going on right now. And I'll leave to the team who's doing the talking to do a readout. But there is an enormous opportunity out there to level set the kinds of things with China that we should be doing more of, right? We should sell them more soybeans. And we're happy to buy, you know, inexpensive baby clothes from them. That model is something that we should exaggerate, right? And we're really talking about the things, you know, where are closer to out, but you know who's making the deal, right? Donald Trump is in the driver's seat, and he's the one that's going to decide how to work out the terms with China. It is the big one, but fortunately we have Donald Trump in the White House to think it through and try to come up with the right path for America.
Last question, Secretary Lutnick. All the experts said tariffs would increase prices, tariffs would all this. They will never learn. If you had to summarize what you, though, have learned that you did not know about President Trump since taking this position, because you know him quite well, you're one of his closest friends, what have you even learned since now being a cabinet official alongside President Trump?
The best thing about Donald Trump is the scale of his intuition, right? He instinctively knows. If you watched him with the EU, he instinctively knows where to push people to the edge to get the most for America, but also leave them feeling good about themselves. He knows how to do it. He did it with the Japanese. He understands in a way that I don't think any expert ever understood, and that's the proof from tariffs. He's proven it. He understood it in his soul, and he's delivering it for the American people. Donald Trump understands. I sit next to him every day, and I'm the proudest to sit next to him because I learn from him all the time, and that is the coolest job.
Secretary Lutnick, thank you so much. We got eyes on all the tables that you...
See you soon.
Yeah.
Stephen, as always, it's a delight to have you with us on the Great America Show. I want to start with first, we haven't spoken in some time, Russia collusion. It turns out Russia collusion wasn't just a hoax. Well, it was a hoax for the Marxist Dems who blamed Donald Trump. You know, we can't relive the story every single time. But it turns out the Russia collusion was on the side of the Marxist Dems for the last 10 years and not exactly on the side of Donald Trump as they told us it was.
Yeah, I was reading just this morning that it looks like they are going to try to pull in the very top people connected to Obama, including Barack Obama. Now, from what I'm reading, they don't believe they're going to get Obama, but that doesn't mean they're not going to put him through the hell of lawsuits, discovery, shaming him, embarrassing him. This is a guy that needs to have his reputation brought out into the light and shown that he tried to circumvent or go around the American voter, number one, but also our favorite president, Donald Trump. And now you've got the former director of national intelligence, now head of the CIA, John Ratcliffe. He was on Fox News saying, we're not at all worried about the time frame on this because the John Durham report came out just a couple years ago. In fact, we're going to declassify the stuff that he wasn't allowed to talk about. We're making it all public, which means we can pull in Hillary Clinton, Obama, Brennan, Comey, all of them. We're going to put them through the ringer. I'm excited to see all of it.
Yeah, I want to hear from John Durham again, too, because, you know, we got that report from him. And to me, it was a total bunch of BS. We got no indictments out of it. We learned, absolutely nothing, but we know everything that's come out now, Stephen, people have known for years. You and I have known on the surface of what it is, but the people around Trump and the people in the DNI office and in the three-letter agencies knew all of this years ago, which makes me believe that John Ratcliffe, that John Durham, and the rest of the folks knew what was going on then. We're now sitting here 10 years later, and we're finally getting to the bottom of it. It just doesn't add up to me. What do you think?
Well, the very report that they're now using to link all the top people and pull the thread back to Obama, that was a report that was buried in a safe within a safe at CIA headquarters. So they're just now discovering that. It did come out in 2020, but they immediately hid it. That up. So they're finding things in locked rooms. They're finding things in safes, but they're also using AI technology to comb through all of the data, and that's how they're putting all of this together. But I, for one, would love to see Hillary Clinton in handcuffs. I would love to see Obama brought in. I don't believe they're going to get Obama, but if you can destroy his reputation, just like they're going to do to Joe Biden, I'm here for it.
What's his name? David Schoen, I believe, was Epstein's former attorney. He represented President Trump for his impeachment. He came out and said the other day that if Obama's to be impeached, that whole immunity deal from the Supreme Court, which Donald Trump got, that a president is immune from prosecution for mostly everything, I guess you can say. But that immunity deal goes out the window if he's impeached on these grounds.
The underlying intelligence that I have spent the last few months making recommendations about final declassification and sent that to the Department of Justice that will come out in the John Durham report classified annex. And what that intelligence shows, Maria, is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to. And you're right, Maria. In August of 2020. He also testified to the House Oversight Committee in 2022. Hillary Clinton testified before John Durham under oath in 2022. James Comey testified before the Senate Committee in September 2020. All of that's within the last 5 years. And much of that testimony is frankly completely inconsistent with what our underlying intelligence that is about to be declassified in the Durham Annex, what that reflects.
Ratcliffe also explaining why he believes these former officials will not be protected by the statute of limitations.
I'll leave it to Pam Bondi and our Department of Justice, Kash Patel and our FBI to investigate the conspiracy to do what and what charges that they're capable of bringing. But again, I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy.
So I want to see some heads roll. I'm just so tired of so many people skating by, and we'll peg it on a little low-level staffer who nobody knows or cares about. We'll make it look like it's a massive indictment. And then at the end of the day, it's just a slap on the wrist when everyone forgets and is not paying attention. You know, they go through their court proceeding and it's a slap on the wrist. Do you think we'll actually get some justice out of this? Because the thing is, Stephen, is this wasn't done by low-level people. We know this was done by Barack Hussein. We know this was done by Hillary Rotten Clinton. We know this was done by the top of the top of the top. I think the American people aren't going to tolerate some little low-level staffer going down for this.
I think the highest we might get would be James Comey and John Brennan.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, former head of the FBI, corrupt. Former head of the CIA, corrupt. I don't know that you're going to get Hillary Clinton. And some of this comes down to money. Yeah. James Comey, Brennan, they went on to make really good money after leaving the government, but they don't have the kind of money to defend themselves. I mean, the Trump family spent $500 million in legal fees. So you might have Obama and Hillary. They might be able to be protected as former Secretary of State, former president. Yeah. But they're going to drain them financially, I believe.
You know what? At a worst, like I said, I'm optimistic on everything that's happening. But I can only be pessimistic when it comes to indictments, just based on not me knowing anything, not me being polemic, but just based on what we've seen in the past. And people are going to say, oh, stop being so negative. It's hard to not be negative when we've watched everything that's gone on the last 10 years and we have nothing to show for accountability-wise. These people who tried to overthrow not just a sitting president, not a presidential frontrunner, but, I mean, a decent man who's done if there was anything that kept me up at night.
Yeah, I mean, the media is just so unfair. Over 40% of his presidency on vacation. Now we know they were just hiding his mental decline. But, Donald Trump goes golfing for a couple hours with his grandchildren in Scotland. And they're like, who's running the country? Who's protecting America? Talk about keep America great. You're not even working for us. Meanwhile, he's closing a $1 trillion European Union deal, the biggest deal in world history. And the guy can't take a break to golf with his grandkids? Give me a break.
Let's turn to that. Under these terms, this EU deal that President Trump just did with the EU leader Ursula von der Leyen, they've agreed to buy $750 billion worth the energy from the United States. Additionally, the European Union will make $600 billion in investments in the U.S. and will purchase hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military equipment. European goods coming into the United States will have a 15% tariff. The EU, guess what it is, Stephen? Take a guess.
Zero.
So, it's not the 50, 60, 70% that President Trump originally had on them. But you know what? That balance of 15-0 in our favor is probably the greatest tariff win this country has seen between America and the European Union
is a fantastic deal. The European Union has been taking advantage of the United States for many years. As I've covered the news for the last 5+ years, I've noticed, wait a minute, we do a lot for them. They're not doing very much for us. I mean, right now, we've spent over $200 billion of hard-earned American taxpayer money for a war in Ukraine we didn't start. We literally get nothing from. It didn't trigger the NATO clause to defend them. So we've done a lot, and yet you find out that Zelensky's been stealing money. His top people are stealing money. Over 50% of the weapons aren't even making it there. Now they're being sold on the black market. So I think that this is a fantastic deal. It also didn't hurt that Joe Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline and then tried to blame it on Putin as if he would blow up his own billion-dollar pipeline. Right. So yeah, Europe is in trouble. They need the United States. If we can at least make money off of them, this is what George Washington told us to do. As he's the president of the United States, he said, stay out of their wars and only trade with them. Donald Trump is trying to get back to George Washington's counsel.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, as you said it exactly right. Okay, he goes out and plays a round of golf. The man doesn't really go on vacation. Barack Hussein, even when he was president, he'd go down to Hawaii, he'd go here, he'd go there. They give Donald Trump a hard time about going to play golf at his Washington, D.C. golf course. So, you know what? It is what it is. I don't care if he vacations 300 days a year, if he's got this economy, if he's got America going the way it was. You wouldn't hear anybody talking about Joe Biden's vacation to Rehoboth Beach if he was doing a good job. Recently, we had the EPSTEIN blow up, which now looks like we're going to maybe get something out of it. Are you as optimistic as most are?
Well, my understanding is that Roger Stone secretly met with President Trump over the last week in the White House every single day, going over all of the aspects of the Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the main holdup there is you've got names, but they are buried in a sealed grand jury from the Southern District of New York. So I don't know that we're going to get that. I also don't know what's in there. They just had Ghislaine Maxwell testify for multiple hours over a 2-day period. They said that she laid out all of the details, the backstory, the context, people involved, over 100 names. I've let my audience know. That doesn't mean it's 100 elite pedophile. Like, we don't know who those names are. They could be talking about the waiter at his favorite restaurant, and they go talk to that person. So I believe that Donald Trump is trying to get to the bottom of this. I think the problem with Epstein is no matter what the truth is, it's not going to make everybody happy, because this is a very deep rabbit hole. And because it's so dark, the violation of young people, trafficking, tricking, manipulation, I just don't know that anyone's ever going to be happy. But I do see Donald J. Trump doing his best to get all of the information out there, despite the fact that they're dragging his name through the mud every single day. What if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? That's right. Imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket and finally getting a little breathing room. It's possible when you call American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses, groceries, gas, bills piling up, you're not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on a credit card, and there doesn't seem to be a way out. American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off your debt. You need to call American Financing today before you get to a point where you can't make these payments. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and consolidate debt, all without upfront fees. And their customers are saving on average $800 a month. That's like a $10,000 a year raise by being smarter with your money. It's fast, it's simple, and it could save your budget this summer. Call now before it's late at 888-686-8030. That's 888-686-8030, or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Gardner.
Yeah, he's used to it by now, though. I don't think he really cares about saving name or saving face, because and they say he's wearing inflatable shoes. These people don't. It doesn't matter what he does.
The left is so disgusting. They're now trying to connect Melania Trump to trafficking, saying, well, if Ghislaine Maxwell was the head trafficker for Epstein, maybe Melania from a former Russian country, maybe she's the trafficker for his sick. I mean, I'm telling you, this is a deep, dark rabbit hole that I don't know will ever get all the light down there to clean this thing out. But I don't believe that Trump was involved in this sick stuff. And, you know, Roger, he just posted that someone found out that he was in D.C. helping Donald Trump. What did they do? Instead of thanking him, they literally poisoned his dogs. I mean, like, there's just some sickos out there. Photos to embarrass him as if he was just so sloppy. There's over 500 people in Congress with 500 different brains.
First, we offer overnight boarding. Your pet will stay overnight in your sitter's home and not only be treated like part of the family, but treated like a king or queen honey. Next, we have house
Welcome back to Wake Up
Come on.
America. So as the Justice Department looks into allegations the Obama administration manufactured the Russia hoax against President Trump, obvious question is, if the DOJ finds members of the administration did in fact commit a crime, can they be charged for it, and with what? Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard calls it a treasonous conspiracy. With us now, back from vacation. I've been wanting to talk to him about this for a week. Senior Judicial Analyst Judge Napolitano. Judge, I've gotten some heat because I've said it multiple times. I do not think the former President Obama can be charged under any circumstances on what we know right now. Did I get it right without your guidance?
You got it 100% correct. The immunity decision, which quite frankly shocked a lot of people in the traditional legal community because of its breadth and its depth. Its breadth covers every official act of the President of the United States. Its depth prohibits the government or a prosecutor from inquiring into motivation. So even if Barack Obama's motivation was to overturn a lawful election, that's out of the question. That cannot be inquired into, and it cannot be used as a hook on which future prosecutors can hang their hats. Stated differently, if he did what Tulsi Gabbard says he did, and there appears to be evidence that he did, directly and indirectly, and I can tell you about some of the indirectly as well, with which I was on which I was reporting at Fox back in the day. He is immune from the prosecution. Now, treason itself is defined in the or giving aid and comfort to the enemy in wartime. It is a wartime structure, and it is intentionally narrowly defined because British kings used treason as an excuse to execute their enemies who looked at them the wrong way.
You know, the interesting thing, too, is, you know, they were saying this is political. He was trying to harm his political opponent. Well, every decision every president makes, regardless of party, is political. You can't get into the motives. I forget whether it was Justice Kavanaugh or Gorsuch who wrote that opinion, said we're making a rule for the ages.
It was a Gorsuch concurrence who said we're making a rule for the ages. And there's that old one-liner from FDR. I'm not a fan of FDR at all. Good politics makes good government, because you can't really separate the two when you're in the White House.
So if you're Clapper, Comey, Hillary Clinton, in that group, are you now subject, because they do not have presidential immunity?
No, they don't, but there is a statute of limitations, and it's 5 years. So if they did, again, what Ms. Gabbard says they did, it was more than 5 years ago, they can't be prosecuted. Now, if they testified under oath and denied these things in fewer than 5 years, they could be prosecuted for lying under oath, but they can't be prosecuted for the underlying crime. And in order to prove they were lying under oath, you'd have to prove that they did commit the underlying crime. They, in fact, were lying about that about which they were testifying.
Yes.
So I think this, and again, as you know, I was away. And by the way, in Europe, it's all Epstein. This got very little play in Europe. And I was traveling around. I was in Berlin. I was in Zurich. I was in Milan. I was up at Lake Como. Very, very little play on what Tulsi Gabbard said. However, much of this is protected by the statute of limitations.
All right, so we'll go.
Hold on. Oh, come on. We got more. I think we got more than that. Yeah, we got more than that. Hold on. Let's see what's going on there. Okay, that's done. Hold on. There's one that I want to play. I don't know why it didn't go there. So we got. So I know. Play this one yet? No. This is the one here. Let's play this one.
Wait, we're locked up in the system. A global settlement may be coming in 2025. Illinois juvenile detention staff allegedly failed properly protect youth from abuse, putting your safety at risk. And now a landmark.
Ghislaine Maxwell just offered to name Jeffrey Epstein's top clients, but only if Congress meets a list of jaw-dropping demands. We've got the full story coming up, but please like, comment, and share Explain America. If you're done waiting for the truth and tired of the cover-ups, come to the right place. Ghislaine Maxwell is ready to talk, but only on her own terms. In a stunning twist, Maxwell's offered to testify before Congress about Jeffrey Epstein's client list and an alleged network of abusers that we know is out there. But she's not doing it for free or even for justice. She wants full immunity, a secure off-site location, questions in advance, and clemency from Donald Trump. The offer came in a letter to House Oversight Chair James Comer after he subpoenaed her for testimony. At first, her lawyer said she would invoke the Fifth. Then they reversed course and made the deal public. So here's, again, what she wants: a formal grant of immunity from prosecution for anything she says. No interview inside her prison. She wants a neutral private location. All questions submitted in advance. No surprises allowed. And she will only testify after if President Trump grants her clemency. She says she'll testify openly and honestly in public in D.C. That last pardon her in exchange for naming names. Well, Congress is already pushing back. Chair Comer said he has no interest in giving immunity to someone convicted of trafficking children. Democrat Rep. Robert Garcia added, "We do not support giving her the questions ahead of time." Well, Maxwell's legal team argues that her testimony could jeopardize her pending appeal and make it impossible to get a fair hearing in the future. But the Oversight Committee, well, at least on the record, isn't buying it. So what happens now? Without immunity or clemency, her team says she'll plead the Fifth and stay silent. There's something else going on here. Maxwell just showed her hand. She has names, approximately 100 by her count. She's willing to talk. And her testimony is going to be explosive if she's ever allowed to talk. So this isn't about clearing her name. It's about leverage. And that should terrify people whose names are still buried in those sealed Epstein records. We'll stay on this story because if Congress plays hardball, and we don't have any reason to believe they will until there's some kind of actual deal cut here, the cover-up on this could unravel. And we're not really quite sure how extensive the problem is that the politicians in D.C. have with this, but we're going to keep watching because the people some eyebrows. We need transparency and accountability in this, and we need the clients charged. This is not a joke. Dogs jerked on a leash. We have our eyes on the ball, and we're going to want those clients to not only be named, but criminally charged in a court of law. We don't care what their name is. We don't care what their title is. We don't care what their position is. We don't care how much influence they have. We don't care how much money they have. We don't care about who they know. We care about justice, and that is it. Okay? So until we get that, we're not going to be happy. All right, so these cover stories and smoke screens and con jobs and gaslighting is not going to get us confused. It's not going to make us stop asking questions. It's not going to make us go away. We need the client list, or at least what Ghislaine Maxwell knows, and she pretty much knows all the clients.
Yeah.
We want those people criminally prosecuted and, if guilty, thrown in jail. That is how justice works. That is the entire reason for the Department of Justice. If you cannot fulfill this mission, we need to find people who will, okay? We don't care about the fallout. We don't care if intelligence agencies or law enforcement are exposed. We don't care. Lock some people up. This has been Kyle Beck with Explain America. If you have any feedback for this, we'd really like to hear it. Thank you for watching Explain America.
Alright, we'll see if he goes on the next video. No, shit, I don't know why he's not doing that. Oh, you seen that one?
Have y'all seen that black man on TikTok shop? I need it. I need it now. I'm gonna link it so y'all have.
He declared that what he's seen inside of the properly predicated investigation here in his strike force capacity is something that shook him to the core. And that'll never be the same.
Now, the one that let's watch, this is the one I just seen, but I didn't get a chance to watch the whole video, guys.
Boy, oh boy. We have a fascinating story about Jeffrey Epstein here.
Director John Radcliffe teasing the release of more files on the alleged ties between the Russiagate scandal and Hillary Clinton.
U.S. intelligence intercepted Russian intelligence talking about a Hillary Clinton plan to falsely accuse Donald Trump of Russia collusion. People is finally coming to light.
Director Radcliffe says more underlying intelligence is currently in the declassification process and could be released soon.
Guess what, Why can I delete 30,000 emails? Because you'd be in jail. Why can I sell to Russia some yellow cake? Because you'd be in jail. Why can I have a body count above 230? Because you'd be in jail. I can't launder money through my charity. Because you'd be in jail. But guess what? Guess what? Everything will be okay. Guess what day? What day? It is. It's up there. Get it on.
What difference at this point does it make?
Can we just keep the music going? I gotta have it today. Just keep the music going. Can we just keep it rolling? Send it, Jerry. Well done. I love it. And thank you all so very much for making this just a wild season. It has been a very interesting one. We had some body checked and absolutely cracked the jaw of one of my nemesises, Brian. Left wing and sapped of all. He's like a Timu Benny Johnson if testosterone was illegal, where he was created in the factory he was created in. Right? There's a tariff on testosterone. Yeah, Oh, man. We went live, and it was wild. It was supposed to be a 5-minute segment, and they extended it through the entire show, effectively. So it was like 25 straight minutes on Chris Cuomo's show. And we were just throwing haymakers right out the bell. Ding!
Oh, my God.
Guess which student has a better chance of getting into an Ivy League school? First, take a look at Zach. He's valedictorian, National Merit Scholar.
It's war, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to fight it, and we're going to win it. Today's going to be a very interesting one. Let's rock and roll. It's Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. Trump says that he's going to jail Hillary Clinton. But then he says, I just want to be fair. Okay. Kind of lines up with what Dan Bongino said this weekend that went so thermonuclear viral, that he's going to show you the truth. Will we get the truth today? We've been seeing a lot of breadcrumbs about a lot of different very interesting things. And we'll give you some of the best reporting out there for what may well be dropped today. The Durham Annex and 20 election. We have good evidence for what's going to happen next, and we're going to discuss all of it. We want you to be ahead of schedule. We want you to be the most informed audience on the internet. And so that's why we're going to tell you all about President Trump and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, yeah, baby. Donald Trump getting into a little-known fact between those two men that changes everything yesterday. It's going to be a wild one. Virginia Roberts, back from the dead, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody who said that she wasn't suicidal, ended up getting suicided, says, don't forget me, and President Trump didn't. Sort of changed the entire landscape and dynamic. Very, very good day today for bookings. We got Mark Mitchell. He's our favorite pollster. He's going to talk to us about how President Trump is doing. Teflon Don, still living in the rubber poles, boing, where everything just bounces right off him. Yeah, I think so. Barry Loudermilk, he's a representative. He's going to be joining us. And the CEO of Alio Capital is going to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. First off, make sure that in this golden era, you're going gold. You know how it goes. You've heard it from me. I don't want to rub it in. But our gold portfolio has done great. I don't mind bragging about this. Listen, we're humble servants of the internet and American media company. But when I have scratch to invest, I make sure that I diversify into gold, and gold has outperformed the market. It's been doing great. And there's been a lot of great economic news, actually, to talk about with the market, and we're going to talk about that later in the show. But I got to tell you, diversification is fantastic. Is diversity our strength as a country? I don't think so. But is diversification good for your portfolio? Yeah, you should call my friends at Advantage Gold. They're going to check in with you. They're going to make sure that you know how to legally move your IRA or 401k to physical gold and silver, avoid taxes and penalties, a little-known IRS strategy, and how to receive $10,000 in free gold and silver if you qualify. Protect your retirement today before it's too late. Text Benny to 85545. That's Benny to 85545, or visit AdvantageGold.com to claim your free copy. There's no cost, just the truth. Data and message rates apply. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professionals. So, I'll tell you what, man. Talk about the golden era and talk about what this show's been able to lock in and accomplish with you, with the chat. And that chat, right here, we've been telling you that we are going to be bringing you the core sources of news and the ecosystem that we all live in, the decisions that are being made for this country, for the future of you and your family. We're going to be dragging that onto this program, and we're going to be giving you an opportunity to ask questions. And so we have delivered, and I have a massive announcement to make right here off the top of the show, that we will have Tulsi Gabbard on the program. Tomorrow, we will have Tulsi Gabbard, the director of the National. Big announcements today is that hopefully, fingers crossed, we're not in control of this stuff, we'll have some big breaking news to talk about. We hope. Will be joining us, and she'll be here answering your questions. We will posit questions from the audience that people want. We will put up graphics today for people to ask questions. And ladies and gentlemen, it's our solemn duty to make sure that we are bringing you those who are changing the world. And this audience has gotten big enough and is loyal enough and is strong enough and is so very impressive to so many people. And we're just so proud to be building this with you. We do the show for you, and it is our endeavor. And we're not perfect at this, but we endeavor to serve this audience humbly, to bow our heads and to get to work and to never miss a moment and to serve you. And we're not perfect in that, but we do our level-headed best to be the hardest workers in this industry and to make sure that this audience is the most connected. So again, we are proud to be bringing you Tulsi Gabbard. Tune in tomorrow, 10 a.m., our normal time for the stream. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on the stream. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to rock and roll today. President Trump making a lot of news this morning, posting on Truth Social, also making quite a bit of news yesterday. I can't wait to get to the Epstein story. The Epstein story is so weird and interesting. How President Trump had employed Virginia Roberts? Oh, man. ALX, by the way, for that block, make sure that you have Virginia Roberts' deposition about Donald Trump. It's very important to hear what she had to say about President Trump. It's going to really make or break the block. Okay, here we go. Trump says he's open to jailing Hillary for Russiagate.
In fact, in clinical trials, the average weight loss was 20% of total body weight. That's 50% more than it was.
Trump says he's open to jailing Hillary for Russiagate. But I just want to be fair. Let's start. President Trump always shows his cards just a little bit, right? Like imagine knowing what they were raiding your house for in Mar-a-Lago. Imagine knowing all of the subterfuge that happened inside of the CIA. Trump was briefed on all of this. Imagine understanding all of this and having to hold those cards close to the chest and not just like out with it. You know? And Trump's been telling us that obviously they ran this fraud against him and that they made this stuff up. But while Trump had the documented proof, it was all classified. Getting stuff declassified is a very arduous process. We're going to talk with Tulsi about that tomorrow, along with a number of other things. But imagine having all that. Imagine the restraint that it shows from President Trump. I know restraint probably isn't the thing you think. Two prime examples of this is on the debate stage. You could see that President Trump obviously noted that Joe Biden was infirmed. And it had been years since he had met Joe Biden live on stage. They only did like two debates in 2020. And so Donald Trump went out on the stage and he was like, wow, what is wrong with this guy? And so Trump actually bat with barbed wire around it and just like clobber Joe Biden metaphorically, like the way that President Trump absolutely could have. Instead, he was like, whoa, I'm just going to let this guy speak for himself here. And Joe Biden said he can't wait to kill Medicaid. Got it. Okay, good job. You can see it in Trump's face. You can see Trump's like, wow, I got to play this one tight. Imagine yet still there's the moment. That's the moment where Trump's like, what? He just said we finally were able to kill Medicaid? What? Medicare? What the hell is going on here?
No, what the? I like that kind of shit.
There was a wild moment that is starting to break forth. President Trump is now letting the dogs off the leash when it comes to Russiagate. Now, for years, President Trump has said this is a fraud, a hoax against him, and we've, of course, always agreed with that contention. But there's never been hard documents. We've been able to see what's in the public arena. So much that was in the public arena was fake, and it was James Comey going on his book tour and everything like that. So much of it wasn't real. And so let's look at the actual real documents. And we've been able to see the real documents here. And the more that we do interviews with people like General Flynn and George Papadopoulos, the more that we talk to the people that were there in those time periods, the more we are able to draw. Tomorrow, have I mentioned, Tulsi Gabbard will be live on the show. All right. Get the sound effects ready. Killer client. Yes. Lots of. Let's begin. President Trump, and I want to go through the rampage because President Trump has been on a rampage this morning. And President Trump, didn't he just say ALX? Didn't he just say that he's going to put Obama in jail? He just said that. So give me the full breakdown of everything that he's popped up this morning on True Social. Producers, thank you. Trump says he's open to jailing Hillary. I just want to be fair. The president says he decided not to prosecute Clinton during his first term. Let's read. President Donald Trump today suggested that he wasn't opposed to jailing Hillary Clinton for her role in the 2016 Russiagate conspiracy. The president made the comments on Miranda Devine's Pod Force One podcast. The president was responding to the declassified information on Russiagate that was released earlier this month by Tulsi Gabbard. We had Hillary Clinton down to whatever we wanted to do with her, Trump said, noting that he felt it was inappropriate to prosecute her. This was in the first term. She's the wife of a president. She's a secretary of state. We could have done a very big number. And I said, we don't want to be doing that. The concept of putting her in jail, indicting her as things that I didn't want to do. He said that at the time, he wanted to focus on the country. And I said, no, we just won. We have to get back to whatever. We have to heal. Trump said he feels differently now. Oh, yeah. Wait till we talk about what. It'll change everything. I was the one that killed it. And then they do the same thing to me. Adding that Attorney General Pam Bondi, Trump's been consistent in calling for allegations, calling the allegations that he colluded with Russia to propagate his campaign a hoax and an act of treason, saying the country is in danger. Gabbard stated in a press release accompanying with the documents that she had referenced lawmakers involved in the DOJ for criminal prosecution. Tulsi Gabbard has framed this as treasonous. She's called it treasonous. Their goal was to subvert the will of the American people and to enact what was essentially a years-long coup and the objective of trying to usurp the president from fulfilling the mandate bestowed upon him by the American people. CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who may well be out with new information today, we are hearing. What would John Ratcliffe be revealing? Well, we're going to be moving on from the 2016 election that they tried to steal to the 2020 election, but they did steal. This is very interesting. John Ratcliffe said that Hillary Clinton, former President Barack Obama, CIA Director John Brennan, and FBI Director James Comey have all been referred to the Justice Department for an investigation that could face prosecution, and Obama is likely protected under presidential immunity, but none of the rest of them are. Hillary Clinton didn't get a pardon out the door. Neither did Comey or any of these individuals. Bondi has appointed a strike force to investigate these documents. And we're going to look into that strike force. We're going to look into cash protection. Teams are telling us some very interesting things. Surely we have the clip. Okay, here we go. We have the clip of Donald Trump perhaps making good on his oldest promise. Trump's oldest promise and most viral promise is probably that he'll deport Rosie O'Donnell. Okay, so check. He finished that one up. That was Donald Trump's first comment on the national stage. Only you've called women fat pigs. Only Rosie O'Donnell. Do you have that? No, you don't have it.
And deep breath in.
Did you know that people everywhere are recommending good art?
Only Rosie O'Donnell. Do you have that? No, you don't have it. Only Rosie O'Donnell. That's fine. We don't have to. We've seen it too many times. So it's an absolute automatic laugh every time you see it. But this is President Trump's first promise, was that he was going to deport Rosie. We don't have to worry about this one because he's made good on this, all right? Here's President Trump's first time on stage during the debate, Megyn Kelly moderating, first question out of the gate. At the time, everybody thought that Donald Trump was not running a real presidential campaign, and this was all fake. So everyone was very curious to see what he said out of the gate. And here we go.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the...
Killer Klein. Killer Klein's a... Here we go. Donald Trump, Rosie O'Donnell.
Women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
Try not to laugh. Try. It's impossible. It's impossible not to laugh. Try.
And disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
It's impossible. By the way, this was in an arena where the Cleveland Cavaliers played. They had just won the NBA National Championship at the time. And I assure you, I know because I was there in the front row, that the National Championship Cleveland Cavaliers didn't get louder roars than Donald Trump in this moment. I can assure you of that. This was a game-changing moment. Donald Trump made good on that promise. Rosie O'Donnell has deported and says she's never coming back. She has herpes of the mouth. She's apparently a belligerent alcoholic. She blames Donald Trump for everything. She fled America in order to get away from Donald Trump. She just constantly talks about him. So it's a weird pathology, and, you know, we'll pray for her and things like that. All right, so here we go. This is Donald Trump's unfulfilled promise from the same election, arguably more famous than the first promise because it has wider-ranging implications. So Trump just made good on the first promise. Let's go to the second promise.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Try not to laugh challenge. And it's the try not to smile challenge. It's impossible. You can't not laugh. Donald Trump's comedic timing, perfect. And in order for her and her elite friends to get out of jail. Donald Trump started his entire presidential campaign talking about elite pedophiles and how they all need to be locked up. He did it on stage at CPAC. We have the clips to prove it. He talked about Prince Andrew and the island. No one even knew about any of this stuff. Donald Trump was telling us where the bodies were buried. In the case of Hillary Clinton, quite literally. And so now, President Trump talking about, well, maybe I'm going to go back to that. Because in the first term, Donald Trump did not lock up Hillary Clinton, even though he could have. Perhaps he should have, you could argue. But Donald Trump thought, and many guests, for instance, Stephen Miller was on this show about 8 months ago. No, about 10 months ago. Stephen Miller was on the show, and he talked about this and how, like, they decided not to prosecute Hillary Clinton for the good of the country. Okay, fine. Donald Trump feels differently now. Here we go.
Yeah, so, you know, we had Hillary Clinton down to whatever we wanted to do with her, and I felt it was inappropriate. She's the wife of a president. She was a Secretary of State, and we could have done a very big number.
Yeah.
And I said, we don't want to be doing that. Let's, you know, put it into the country and not the concept of putting her in jail, indicting her, all the things that you have to do. You know, it's tough stuff. And I said, we don't want to do that. In fact, you remember I made speeches when I mentioned her name. They started lock her up. Yeah. And I said, no, this is after we won. We just won. And I said, we have to get back to, we want to heal. And yet they did it to me.
Yeah.
So I feel differently. I mean, I'm a human being. I have my feelings too. And so I feel differently about it. Obama, what he did was terrible. What Brennan did and Clapper and Comey and all these lightweights, they're stupid people, actually. But what they did, and so unnecessary. And they made it really hard. But ultimately, I don't know, they toughen you up. You either learn that you can do that. How many people could handle that?
Yeah.
I've had so many people said, how did you handle that every day? And they come up with these different scams. They're all scams, and they're still doing it. You know, they're doing it now.
So President Trump right now, on Truth Social, up with this graphic, nothing happens until this happens. Until this happens, nothing will change. You can see Hillary Clinton there behind bars. Very much boomer artwork here. But nonetheless, President Trump continuing to post this morning talking about how Obama must be indicted. It's time to indict Obama, the traitor, for treason. Donald Trump popping these up. And Donald Trump, in his very presence, treason. Evidence proves both the FBI and the CIA were deeply involved in the historic 2020 election lie. Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian propaganda. Well, that's interesting. Talking about the 2020 election. If only there was a show that told you that that's exactly what's about to happen.
General Flynn on our show yesterday dropped a bombshell. It's since gone thermonuclear online. It's been seen by millions. And if you were watching live, you said, wow, that's really fascinating. General Flynn says the major bombshell that is going to be released next and is in the act of being declassified right now was the CIA's role in rigging the 2020 election. Is that what President Trump means when he posts this up on Truth Social? Talking about the CIA directors who got together to collude to lie about Hunter Biden's laptop. You would recall that, of course, this laptop story broke in the weeks leading up to the election. The election was not particularly, it wasn't a runaway election one way or the other. In fact, Donald Trump was looking like he was the potential odds-on favorite. All you needed was to have a little bit of a breakdown in the Biden facade, whether that be his creepy family or his health or his kids and his criminality. And this was very much a Hillary Clinton 2.0. You remember Hillary Clinton email case gets opened wide up in the days leading up to the election. James Comey, right, is the deep state cleanup operators. They're like the janitors for the deep state. Anyway, the point is that General Flynn about it. Get ready. We're about to shift gears up to the big one, the 2020 election. Here we go. Can you frame this for us? What are we about to see?
Yeah, so two things, and there's still a lot of internal undermining within the CIA. That has to end. The exposure, though, that I think we're about to see is additional exposure of the current evidence that we are seeing with the undermining in the 2016-2017 timeframe. And I think the big one that's going to come out, and I think it's going to be even worse, is 2020. So 2020 was the coup, as I've said very bluntly. The plan initially was Obama, Hillary, but that got stopped by Trump, right, and the American people. And so then they had to figure out how to do it again. And the real coup was 2020. And I think that, I wouldn't expect something in the next 24 hours, because I think that there's some machinations going on inside of the government right now. And I think a lot of what we're going to learn in leading up to 2020 is the coup. And remember, President Trump was the president at that time, right? The 51 intel and defense advisors that signed the Hunter Biden letter. I mean, that's public now. There's a lot of other things that are not public that led up to 2020 that led to the coup and the rigged election where Uncle Joe became the president of the United States. Right? So more to come. That's where I think, if you want to put a finger on what's next, it's that.
Wow. So that would be, President Trump wasn't necessarily in power. He was the president-elect. But you're talking about the 2020 election where it's sedition against the actual elected president in office.
Exactly.
That's bombshell, General.
It really is. To me, that's everything that happened to me and to Trump and to the country. We're now seeing that. Now it's how they then decided, once they couldn't get him to get out 25th Amendment or whatever, or just to say, screw it, Pence, you can have it. When they couldn't do that, they had to figure out another way to do it. And the 2020 election is going to be, I think, the real revelation that we, as the world, and then certainly the American people, are going to see. And to me, that is going to then allow President Trump to make some decisions about how our elections will be conducted. That's the real story here.
Fascinating. So they're going to use this then as a predicate. He's already signed the executive order to secure the elections. They're going to use this as an example of how subterfuge can happen from inside of the system to rig elections against presidents.
Absolutely. And that's not just here in the United States of America. That's worldwide.
My ED definitely made me feel broken. His was a fantastic find. The Low Dose Daily has given room for...
Absolutely. And that's not just here in the United States of America. That's worldwide.
Well, we're very proud of the questions that we ask on this program. They have a tendency to get to the truth. And General Flynn making some bombshell claims there. that what's going to happen next is criminal charges for the 2020 election. I mean, I'll take the 2016 election first. Let's begin there, low-hanging fruit, and then move our way up. But this seems to align with what CIA Director John Ratcliffe has said. Now, what would still be stored at the CIA that we don't already know? I mean, it seems like they've done an enormous amount of disclosures. This is a great question for Tulsi, we'll be sure to ask. But they've done a ton of disclosures. And they've really gotten to the heart of it. I mean, they've released the emails, they've released the draft president's daily brief, they've released incredibly highly classified information. You can see how they were plotting against General Flynn live. So what else do they have? Let's listen to Director Ratcliffe talk about this. And with the framing of General Flynn saying, no, you don't understand. We're moving on to the next stolen election. We're going to start processing. We're going to hit them so hard and from so many fronts. We've already defunded U.S.A. They have no more slush funds. We're going to strip them down with the legal fees. We're going to break these people. The process is the punishment. We're going to do to them what they did to Trump. Here we go.
Look, our audience knows this, thanks to you and thanks to Devin Nunes. Our audience is well aware of what took place here, but we want to see accountability. Many of the statute of limitations have expired. It's been almost 10 years for many of these folks who did this. But John Brennan testified to Congress, and so did Hillary Clinton, within 5 years. I think it was in 2020, and then again in 2021. Are those statute of limitations still live? Tell me if, in fact, we could see a criminal prosecution here, as you just the other day, 3 weeks ago, have, in fact, referred criminal referrals to the DOJ.
Well, Maria, so part of what came out last week was about how John Brennan, Clapper, Comey, they all pushed the known fake Steele dossier into intelligence community assessments and as the basis for Crossfire Hurricane and all that. But what hasn't come out yet and what's going to come out is the underlying intelligence that I have spent the last few months making recommendations about final declassification and sent that to the Department of Justice that will come out in the John Durham report classified. Is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that claims by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to. And you're right, Maria. John Brennan testified to John Durham in August of 2020. He also testified to the House Oversight Committee in 2022. Hillary Clinton testified before John Durham under oath in 2022. James Comey testified before the Senate Committee in September 2020. All of that's within the last 5 years. And much of that testimony is frankly completely inconsistent with what our underlying intelligence that is about to be declassified in the Durham Annex, what that reflects. And so, you know, Pam Bondi does have a strike force. It is a different Department of Justice, a different FBI, and an opportunity to look at how these people really did conspire to run a hoax, a fraud on the American people and against Donald Trump's presidency.
What hasn't come out is the underlying proof of what data they were looking at, and this was all contained inside of the Durham Annex, the Durham Report. Durham Annex will show that FBI officials knew that the Clinton campaign planned the entire Russia collusion hoax, that they paid Russian spies and people that are on the payroll of sanctioned Russian oligarchs in order to create this hoax, that the FBI then put the entire good faith and credit of the FBI behind this hoax, merchandised it, whitewashed it through the intelligence community, and then presented it as fact, even though they knew it was fake and they knew it was campaign opposition research that was created by Russian spies. and paid for by Donald Trump's political enemies. The FBI were co-conspirators in this, and that is what the Durham Annex will show. Now, this is what John Solomon has been reporting out, and he says that we are about to see all of it, and that will, of course, be the coup de grace for the conspiracy against Donald Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, this is John Solomon reporting last night about this report and stating, hey, listen, get ready for the Durham Annex. It's going to change everything. Go.
Go on. Let's go.
Planned this all along.
Annex is going to show there was foreign intelligence. A foreign enemy had determined that the FBI had agreed to be the accelerant, that they were going to be conspirators joining with Hillary Clinton to give credence to her fake narrative. And that's exactly what happened. When people see what the foreign intelligence is and then how the FBI acted, it matches extremely closely. This is a bombshell Senator Grassley is going to release as early as tomorrow.
Great investigative reporting, John Solomon, and incredible work.
Ladies and gentlemen, he notes Chuck Grassley will be the one on the Judiciary Committee releasing it. Here's Chuck Grassley, approximately 12 hours ago. Thumb drives containing unreviewed info on Clinton email scandal and mishandling of highly classified information have been sitting in the FBI offshoot office since 2018. I sent a letter with House Intel Chair Crawford asking Director Patel to review these materials and to report back ASAP. Chuck Grassley getting some major engagement there, 14,000 likes, 5,000 reposts. Chuck Grassley seems to be zeroing in on Hillary Clinton. What John Solomon said there is a monster deal, that the FBI were willing co-conspirators, and this aligns perfectly with what Dan Bongino said this weekend. We were very proud that we predicted exactly what Dan was talking about here, and we used our sources in order to get that information. Dan Bongino saying the director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and political weaponization of law enforcement and intelligence operators. Remember, the FBI is an intelligence agency. He's also part of the strike force that is looking into this. Dan Bongino operates out of a classified SCIF, so he's able to see all of the information that we can't see. Apparently, what's been declassified is just the tip of the iceberg. Dan Bongino is going through the real meat of it all. It's a priority for us, but what I've learned over the course of my properly predicated necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. This is what made this go so viral. 20 million people saw it, 48,000 likes, 233,000 reposts. This line right here. Dan Bongino is not effeminate. Somebody who uses flowery language. He is not a limp-wristed, lispy individual who's going to over-emotionalize everything. Yeah, that's right. He's not writing letters to Epstein. That's exactly right. With his typewriter and his paintbrush, and his what's the funny little French hat called? Not a toupee, a beret. Not a toupee. Toupee and a beret, maybe, whatever. Dan Bongino is bald. I would never tell him to wear a toupee. Okay. Bongino, good bald. What I'm saying here is that Dan Bongino, when he uses language like this, people pay attention. Shocked me down to my core. I'll never be the same after learning what I've just learned. We can't run a republic like this. What Dan Bongino most likely just learned and is reading through is the Durham Annex. It may also have something to do with the 2020 election, but what we can assume is found in the Durham Annex, which is a very hot and the most classified part of the Durham report, is all of the original source documents, emails, handwritten notes, correspondence, text messages, things that were so classified and such a highly classified intel labeling that not even John Durham, with his special investigation, would be able to release them to the public. They've been housed here and secured. Dan Bongino is going through them. And what do they show? Here's what they show according to John Solomon's reporting and according to all the reporting that we've been doing in structure building that we've been doing on the show. They show that the FBI, the agency that Dan Bongino is a part of, it makes this post make perfect sense. Please put the post back up. This post makes perfect sense. If Dan Bongino is approaching this from the FBI's perspective. What he's finding out is the intelligence organ that I'm working for worked with Hillary Clinton to produce, what did John Solomon say? Foreign actors, Russian spies, they worked with Russian spies. Not the other way around. Stop yelling. But not the other way around. The official narrative is the opposite of the truth. It was the FBI working with Russians to attack Trump, not Trump working with Russians to attack our institutions and rig an election. It was the exact opposite. The FBI knew what Hillary Clinton was doing, and the annex release, which may well happen today, according to all available sourcing, will prove that once and for all.
For all.
General Flynn proving right again. He's been telling our show this for a very long time. And Flynn says, once they carve up this whale, get ready. The next one's coming. 2020 election. Yeah. One final note on all of this. Obviously, President Trump is laying the groundwork for some major charges. We wouldn't know anything about this without Devin Nunes. Devin Nunes now currently runs Truth Social. So he's still very, very closely connected with the president. He probably sends him the memes that Donald Trump posts on Truth Social. The point is, like this one, it's time to indict Obama.
That's right.
The point is that Devin Nunes knows this issue better than anyone and can speak to what actually happened here. What he's saying is...
Let's get fiscal. Lesson 3, savings gains. Setting up your financial future, credit card.
And here, what he's saying is, well, it's very scary if you're one of the co-conspirators. Listen to this.
Yeah, I think the conspiracy continues, and I think that's what the Justice Department and the Strike Force has to look at. I look at this all as one big hoax, that starts with the Clinton campaign hoax. It becomes Obama's hoax. It leads into the fake impeachment and the phony whistleblower. It goes into the Hunter Biden laptop. And then finally, at the end of all this, there's a raid at Mar-a-Lago. And that's going to be critically important. That team has to be looked at. Jack Smith and all the people that drugged the American people, wasted, $40-50 million of government money, essentially on a witch hunt against President Trump to do what? To stop him from being elected. So I think they have to look at it in the whole. If you looked at what Director Ratcliffe has been saying, the conspiracy continues. And they continue to just, if you tell a lie long enough, they're hoping that it will become the truth and enough people will believe them. I'm hopeful that this polling now is a wake-up call for the Democratic Party, that they need to stop listening to the 1% of their party that have been leading it down a very dark place that has done not only a lot of destruction like we talked about, the things that happened to President Trump and his team, but I think more importantly, Sean, is this. Would we have the massacre that's occurring in Russia and Ukraine today had Donald Trump actually been able to be president for real in those 4 years if he wasn't under investigation, could have sat down with Putin? Remember, as soon as Trump's out of there, what happens? Putin immediately starts to do really bad things, and now you have millions of people that are killed or casualties.
Here for what's about to happen. Erica Knight is in the private sector. I guess her description here on X is communication strategist. Anyway, she's a wonderful individual, and she's someone who's very, very close with Cash and Dan, and she does crisis and critical communications for Team Trump, and she doesn't post often on social media. She's a wonderful person, and she's we know her, right, on the show. She booked people on the show. We'd work with her to get Cash on the show back in the day. Anyway, the point is that she's somebody who knows a thing about a thing, all right? And she posted this. It's very interesting timing. Right after Dan Bongino had that viral tweet. And I'm going to just play you the first couple of seconds of this. It's a documentary about Cash and Devin and what they learned about Russiagate. But she says this in her post. The man who exposed the Russia hoax is now the FBI director. He's the one receiving the criminal referral for DNI Gabbard. Told you so. Well, what does he tell us? Let's just listen to the first couple of seconds here from Kash Patel, and what Kash Patel's digital voice online, Erica Knight, has to say.
All of these things sort of started coming together in a very unusual fashion. I said, Devin, we're following the money, and I'm going to tell you right now that the DNC and Hillary paid for this. It was 9 a.m. on a weekday, and he literally looks at me and he goes, Cash, if you're going to start drinking this morning, get out of my office. It always goes back to the money, and it's the easiest thing to follow because you have to document it in some fashion or you got to move it in some way. We were able myself and one other colleague to visit banks' attorneys and review in closed session the records.
What did the records show? There it is right there. Perkins Coie, the payments for the Steele dossier. But what is the Steele dossier? Russian disinformation. What is Russian disinformation? They worked with Russian spies. They worked with a foreign actor in order to create this hoax. And this is what they're saying now, is that the FBI was complicit in all of it. So you can see all the pieces coming together. It's an exciting time. We are locked in, and there's so much more information we're going to be prepared for today. Many little birdies are telling us today is going to be a very, very big day. So we're excited to have Tulsi on the program. We're also excited to have our favorite pollster in America from Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, on the program. We'll get to him in just a moment. Alio Capital is how you should be investing your money. You got this hard-earned scratch. You got to make sure that it's moving for you, and Alio Capital is an app that does that for you. Most of us aren't day traders. You don't have the time or the ability to sit there and track everything and monitor everything. Who does, actually? Which helps identify shifts in inflation, interest rates, global risks. It adopts your portfolio in real time from a macro or micro level, hands-on or hands-off, high risk or low risk. Alio Capital will make sure that your capital is working for you all the way down to the finest granule or the biggest picture. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the way that I invest. Hands off. I got other things to build. Alio Capital has been great for me. Download their app in the App Store or Google Play. Text my name, Benny, to 511-511. That's ALLIO Capital. Text Benny to 511-511. Download the Alio app or text Benny to 511-511 today. Investing does involve risk, potential loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee results, and consult with your financial professional before making any decisions. Boy, oh boy. We have a fascinating story about Jeffrey Epstein here. I can't wait to talk about it with our next guest, the great Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, who comes on to give us the hard facts and the data. Let's rock and roll. Ooh, that new guest stinger is sharp. We are sharpening things up around here, Mark. How are these polls? Are these polls looking sharp for Donald Trump? It's been kind of all over the place. I assume the singularity hasn't happened, and Donald Trump hasn't become the most popular president in American history at this time. Am I wrong? Mark, you're muted. Sorry, my friend. Why don't we pop Mark off? He'll work with our studio and rocking and rolling and back in action. Producers, just tell me what's up. Trump claims Jeffrey Epstein poached young women working at the Mar-a-Lago spa. Now, this is pretty unique. This is a story that happened yesterday because President Trump said on an interview in Air Force One that the reason why he banished Jeffrey Epstein was that he was a creep. Now, this is backed up by an enormous amount of available evidence. But it really caught our attention that he talked about Virginia Roberts. Virginia Roberts is, of course, the individual who was the chief whistleblower about Jeffrey Epstein, about his sex ring and pedophilic operation. She was so renowned in her whistleblowing that, that she was able to get multi-million-dollar settlements from the royal family. She's the only individual, as far as we know, who's been able to get royals stripped of their titles in the modern era. Prince Andrew. That all happened. Virginia Roberts is somebody who spoke to the press with regularity and talked about her experience with President Trump here in the deposition. Virginia Roberts spoke about Donald Trump in this document, saying, yeah, I used to work at Mar-a-Lago, actually. And did Donald Trump ever creep on? Did Donald Trump ever do anything inappropriate? Ever flirt with you? No, he didn't. That's completely inaccurate. Did you ever see Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein or at his home? No. How about on his island? No. How about on his mansion? No. How about on his ranch? No. How about on his plane? No. This is the chief Epstein witness. Now, she said very different things, obviously, about Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein himself. Jeffrey Epstein himself saying that Bill Clinton liked him young, and so on and so forth, yet Bill Clinton has never been questioned about this. Donald Trump's been asked every question under the sun. Here is Donald Trump explaining on his plane yesterday the inflection point where he kicked out Jeffrey Epstein because of Virginia Roberts. And the reason why this is so important is because Virginia Roberts said, I'm not suicidal. There are very dangerous people that want to suicide me. She has said it. She has said this. Do we have that post? Do we have that tweet? No. She posted this on social media. She said, I'm not suicidal. There are many people who want to see me quieted. Don't forget about me if I die. Not long after posting this, Virginia Roberts gets hit by a bus in the Australian outback, one of the most rural places on earth. Virginia Roberts then goes on to post from the hospital that she only has days to live. Then days after that, Virginia Roberts is found dead. Seems there are no coincidences. Here's the original post, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the original post, ladies and gentlemen. So, this is President Trump not forgetting her. She says, please, for the sake of my family, don't let this go away and protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted. Now, this individual who we'd love, if she were alive today, she would be the single most booked guest in the history of television, podcast, any show. I would travel. If she was living in Australia, I would travel to Australia to sit down and do an interview with her. We would have done anything in order to get Virginia Roberts on the record talking about this, because she was a first-hand. All of it. We have some of her deposition testimony, but that's all we got. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's President Trump not forgetting Virginia Roberts, name-dropping her, saying she was my employee. I treated her well. She worked in the spa. A bunch of young people work in the spa, right? It's a club. And Jeffrey Epstein was inappropriate with them, and I banished him the moment I found out. Here we go.
Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. Just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them young women? Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken, and it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad, but that story's been pretty well out there, and the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
What did they do?
In the spa.
In the spa.
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago, and people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine, and then not too long after that, he did it again, and I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons that include Virginia?
I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
I had the privilege, just allow me one quick personal story. I had the privilege of walking back through the guts of Trump Doral, Trump's big golf course in Miami, with Donald Trump and with his son, Don Jr. And And it's not that I'm that important. I just happened to be traveling for an event they were both at, and I was able to sort of tag along as they were walking back through their properties. And to a man, the staff at these properties were standing at attention and got, every single one of them got a handshake, a photo, a clap on the back. The president, even though he was late to his speech, spoke with everyone, some of them in broken English, barely able to speak to Donald Trump, but Donald Trump stopped, listened, engaged with them. Trump is renowned for his love of his staff. Some of the key people in the White House, like Dan Scavino, have been there for 30 years with Donald Trump. Dan Scavino was Trump's caddy. He was a teenager. He's a very, very loyal person. And Trump found out that Jeffrey Epstein was abusing the young women. Here's the article from Business Insider. Jeffrey Epstein, accuser Virginia Giuffre, didn't think Donald Trump was involved at all in Jeffrey Epstein's predator ring. And she knew both of them. She worked for Trump. And it was actually Virginia Roberts who, the key Epstein witness, since suicided, that's sort of the key to everything here. I suppose now you have to Maxwell, but this is a critical piece of information. And Donald Trump just here, Bill Clinton. Have you ever heard Bill Clinton question about this at all? Donald Trump's having to go back into like the minutia of who he employed and when and how. Has Bill Clinton ever been asked about this at all? Ladies and gentlemen, somebody who could answer that question, joining us once more. I think we're all set with the audio now, is the great Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports. Let's do the stinger one more time. Bam.
Want to try tirzepatide?
So this is tirzepatide, and it is the #1 weight loss medication available.
Mark, welcome back. We got you now?
Yeah, I'm just going to blame the H-1B engineering. I think that's probably what it is.
You know, it always happens. It always happens whenever we're talking about China spying, or whenever we're talking about Epstein. There always seems to be some type of technical difficulty. It's very interesting.
Third party app failed. Great. What could it have been?
That's right. Okay, so talk me through it. My question still stands. What are you seeing right now in the polls for Trump? I sort of see it all over the place. It's been a little schizophrenic. Talk to me.
Well, this is a critical time because everybody's still on the beach. And they're going to come back in September, and I don't know what opinion is going to glom onto. And what we really have right now is this situation of two warring hoaxes. And that's really what it is. It's it's Donald Trump uncovering the roots of the Russian collusion hoax that still a lot of people believe in. And then this Epstein hoax that the left is really going to run with, this idea that Trump is covering up. And we have new polling back on that. It is kind of getting into cover-up territory. And I was one of the first people to call out 3 weeks ago, this is going to become a wedge issue. You can't sweep this one under the rug. You have to get out in front of it. And they didn't. And they're in a much trickier situation. But the polling is Donald Trump's at -3 today, net approval. Is that horrible? Is that Joe Biden territory? No, it's not. Joe Biden got to like -20 4 years ago in September after Afghanistan. But that was also, the beginning of the fall political cycle in the first year. Like, opinions are going to move, and this could become Trump's Afghanistan, to be honest with you, if they don't handle it better. But he was at net +8 back in the middle of June. And since then, he's took out the Iranian nuclear program. He's signed his signature legislation into law. He's had a whole heck of a lot of positive economic news, and Americans are not rewarding him for that. He's fallen 11% since then. And so what could that possibly be because of? I can only surmise now, but I can tell you that the polling underlying the Epstein thing shows that there's a really big rift between what Trump supporters believe and what the Trump administration is saying. And so I think that's probably the biggest situation, because it isn't just about Epstein, in my opinion. It's about accountability, which is one of the key themes of the Trump administration. Not disclosure, not transparency, but accountability. And I have lots of stuff to support that. And it looks like people all of a sudden got, dumped cold water on them, that there is not going to be accountability for what they've been told and believed for decades, is that rich and wealthy predators are going to Epstein Island and getting away scot-free with a two-tier justice, and that there isn't going to be accountability for that. And so what is there going to be accountability for? And you could say, all right, well, maybe this stuff with Obama, Crossfire Hurricane, and Hillary Clinton, but if you go to Google search trends right now and just type in Clinton and Obama and compare it to what people are searching for the term Epstein, those are bigger names, they're former presidents. People are searching for Epstein right now. They're not searching for Clinton and Obama. And this stuff that might come out that shows that these people are complicit in essentially a coup, I don't know how that's going to affect opinion. This is a really tricky thing about the way that public handles this stuff, is that first off, Trump does not have full narrative control like he did back in January, February, March. And second, as this stuff comes out, what it's reinforcing, in my opinion, in voters' heads is that they just can't trust the government. Like, that's the problem, right? Is that you tell me that the CIA and the FBI and the Hillary Clinton campaign colluded to try and undermine Trump's administration. That just confirms their opinion that the FBI was corrupted under Democrats, but hasn't been fixed yet. And so we'll have to see. I mean, I applaud them for holding people accountable, but people want arrests, and I have numbers to back that up.
Yeah, we have the numbers right here on the screen. Please pop it back up. Yeah, so here it is. The red line is people searching for Clinton. You can obviously see those searches tick up, and then the yellow line is Obama, and then the blue line is Epstein. There's
show the last just a month ago. It's absolutely wild. And so Trump can say, oh, well, I'm going to let the DOJ handle it. We're going to dribble stuff out or whatever. It's not going away. If you look at Reddit politics, which in my opinion can be considered like the left's narrative R&D, it's all wall-to-wall Epstein right now. And so they found a very powerful wedge issue that they're going to run with in the mainstream media, and it's going to drown out a lot of stuff. All of this stuff, no, Trump's numbers will probably recover, but let's also acknowledge that the Democrats are leading by 4 points in the generic ballot right now. And so automatically I'm looking forward to November of 2026. And it's like, well, can the Republicans win that? Maybe. There's a lot of ifs. If Act Blue gets shut down, who's still raising $400 million a quarter, if the Republicans redistrict Ohio and Texas, but it's like, why don't you just sign good laws? They've signed 30 pieces of legislation. Only 5 of them do anything. They're hardly in session at all. They're literally fighting Trump on whether or not to speed up his nominations, which aren't happening. And so, like, this is what makes me so mad. And I'm glad to be on. I need all the followers. I've lost like 2,000 or 3,000 followers in the last week just for crapping on Republicans. But Republicans are failing big because Donald Trump was delivered a mandate to fix the government, to restructure our economy, and to usher in a golden age. A majority of voters, a strong majority, agreed that Trump was going to bring a golden age in January. And Mike Johnson, that they're going to raise American first flag over the halls of Congress, and he was going to work with everybody to support Trump's mandate and give Americans, the Congress that they deserve. Has that happened? No. And people are starting to notice. That's why, Trump built the big tent of crossover Democrats and independents. Independents are really pissed about the Epstein stuff. Only 14% of them say that the case is closed. And Trump is underwater in the teens with independents right now. So he's losing independence over things, not just Epstein, but over the fact that the one big beautiful bill, independents thought it didn't cut enough. And so that's the problem. He can have these wins. He might not get credit for it, and Republicans are definitely not currently getting credit for any of the stuff Trump is doing, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it's not just your opinion, Mark. The reason why I love booking you is that you bring this hard data, and we're able to assess these things through what the American people believe, and also just the reality, whether I like it or not. And it is kind of a fascinating moment, isn't it, man? Like, this Epstein thing is a creation of the internet. Like, it is not something that was given to us as a news cycle via broadcast or corporate TV at all. Right. It is something that is lived inside of meme chats, and it's something that is lived inside of people's theories online. And I believe that was the great mishandling, probably, is not understanding what weaponized uranium-235 you were dealing with here, because when you finally come out with that memo and dash it all down without revealing any information or evidence to back up your claims or showing your work, and the memo's unsigned and it's undated and it's so mysterious and it's dropped in the middle of a super cycle for Trump, which is insane. Like, so much of it didn't make any sense. I don't have a time machine, and nor did anyone. What they're doing now, why wouldn't they just do that instead of writing the memo, right? So instead of writing that memo, why not just say, okay, so the next stage of this is we're going to go interview Ghislaine Maxwell, and then we're going to go ask the courts for all of the documents, and we're going to really do our best to get to the bottom of this. And we haven't made any conclusion yet because, well, hell, Ghislaine Maxwell's still alive in federal custody and nobody's ever talked to her. So that just seems like such a more logical way to go about it, like what they're doing now.
Ultimately, what it comes down to is that I guess they don't fully understand public opinion, because you're right, it did start on the internet. There's a huge legend and myth behind all of this Epstein stuff. Some of it's probably true, but it was also very heavily leaned into in a way that if they were using it cynically, that's bad. That's like wrong. That's kind of lying. But the thing is that there probably is fire to this smoke. I think it's fair to say. But Benny, we have an FBI that costs $11 billion a year. Are they doing police work? And I'll tell you, in my opinion, the numbers support the fact that Americans think that because of all of this, that police work is weren't. Let me just read the numbers. So how in 2019, let me set the stage. This happened right after Pam Bondi came out and said case closed. This is we got these numbers back 3 days after the Axios article, I think maybe 4 days. In 2019, Epstein was arrested on sex trafficking charges and was later found dead in his jail cell. Which is more likely, he was murdered or he committed suicide? 47% murdered, 31% suicide. Republicans, 50% murdered, 33% suicide. So this is right after Kash Patel said, nothing to see here. The tapes are fine. I've seen them. He committed suicide. Half of Republicans don't even believe him. The FBI and DOJ recently concluded an investigation that found that Epstein committed suicide and that Epstein did not keep a client list of men involved in a sex trafficking operation. Do you believe the FBI or DOJ? Only 21% of America says yes. 56% no. Only 27% of Republicans, 15% of independents say yes. Only 15% of independents believe Trump's FBI and DOJ. And Trump won independents. That's why he won, because he won independents. Which is closer to your opinion? The case is closed, or that dozens of powerful and wealthy offenders need to face justice? 16% say case is closed. Independents and 20% of Republicans say case is closed. Now, we got these numbers back. I know for a fact that they got to the Trump administration. The very next day, he was attacking his followers and saying they were weak and that he didn't want them on Truth Social. That is a major, major problem. This is oh my God, America does not trust my administration. And I think it's a huge wake-up call that when you have an FBI under Biden, that a majority of people say that is Joe Biden's personal Gestapo, just because you put Kash Patel in charge of it doesn't mean Americans have forgotten that the FBI can be a Gestapo. And so them coming out and saying nothing to see here, it's not going to work. It was the most obvious choice, in my opinion. The Democrats are now going to run with this, and they have for 2 or 3 weeks. And we have new stuff now, and the problem is it looks like it's going to be Americans are starting to think it's a cover-up. And now it's much a different situation. Weeks ago, Trump could have said, this is an important issue. Maybe Pam Bondi misspoke. There is something here. We should look into it. We're going to. It would have gone away. How likely is it the Trump administration officials are engaged in a cover-up to hide Trump's involvement in the Epstein case?
Every 5 seconds, someone's identity is stolen. That means since you started this video, another person became a victim.
Officials are engaged in a cover-up to hide Trump's involvement in the Epstein case. 45% very likely, 15% somewhat. That's 60%. And so you've talked to me a lot about all these things. There's always a 60% number when people are like, well, should you trust the government? We had roughly 60% who said that January 6th was a Fedsurrection. The theme here is a lack of trust in the government. And it's the same with Biden, and it looks like it's going to be the same with Trump. And ultimately, I think it comes down to people want arrests. We don't have a question about arrests for Epstein, but we do should
be criminally prosecuted. 57% yes, 26% no, and then this is getting back to the Obama stuff. Agree or disagree with this statement about the manipulation of intelligence in the Obama administration? Accountability has to take place. It is critical for the survival of our country that people who perpetrated such crimes are held accountable. Talking about Crossfire Hurricane, that's a Mike Flynn quote. 48% strongly agree, 20% somewhat agree. That's a 70% number. And that gets back to the 30% trust the federal government. 70% want this system fixed, and it's not happening. Just because you're going to bring all of this economic positive news doesn't mean that people still didn't live through the Biden administration where the entire government was weaponized against people. So, again, Trump can't fix all of that, but he's got to stop making this error cost him literally all of July in his polling numbers. He should be soaring right now. He's going to go into the fall basically where every other president entered the fall, and this one looked like it was going to be different.
Yeah, it did. I can sense your extreme disappointment here. J.D. Vance made a ton of news a day ago, taking this issue head on. We hadn't heard J.D. Vance talk about it. He had previously been very, very based on the Epstein question. He'd been posting about it. He'd been talking about it on Theo Von podcast. And then J.D. Vance finally was able to address this with the AP asking him a question. And J.D. Vance says, listen, and I think this is a genius way to frame all of this. We just got here. It was the George Bush administration, the Biden administration, the Obama administration that gave Jeffrey Epstein so many passes and allowed him to skate and to do all of this. And I think that level of honesty about the real Epstein story, which the government is going to have to just come out and have a full press conference and a full retelling and a reframing of all. Now they're forced to. They have to do it. Yeah. That was refreshing for me, and the J.D. Vance answer, I think, did well, and it played well with our audience. You have polling out here from J.D. Vance. And we'll just get to this very quickly. In 2028, you put him up against AOC and Gavin Newsom. Do you see this being an issue heading into for 2028? I mean, it looks like J.D. Vance is doing fine against these two. Has this affected J.D. Vance?
Head-to-heads a while ago. This Emerson one that you're putting up looks pretty good.
My apologies, Emerson. My apologies, Mark.
Well, when we polled on Vance, it was a while back, and it was really, quite frankly, too soon. It looks like he's picking up more of Trump's voters, which is a positive sign. That's something I predicted might be able to happen. If Emerson's got him up 3, we might have him up 4 or 5, to be honest with you, on Newsom. And let's also acknowledge that Newsom did a really good job campaigning against himself in June, and so that also could be driving what you see here. I'm actually surprised Newsom's getting 42%. We didn't have him hitting 40.
Wow.
But again, what I've seen in other head-to-heads as well is that Vance might have a promising future. He certainly says a lot of the right things, but he has not been on the public stage as long as Trump has, and he hasn't completely gotten all of Trump's support. So there is something very specific about Trump. He came in as an outsider. He went through a lot of tribulations. And so there is basically a floor below which I don't think Trump's numbers will drop of people who just implicitly trust him. Now, I guess we'll see if that holds. And so anybody who's not Trump is going to have a problem. He just doesn't have the same, they don't have the same fervor. And maybe he can build that. But, if you try and project into the future, this is where it gets tricky, is that MAGA is going to die. It's going to become something else because MAGA is Trump's thing, and Trump is going to start losing political capital. People might not like hearing that, but he's losing political capital right now. A lot? I don't know about a lot. But what happens if he loses the midterms? In 26, he's going to lose a heck of a lot more political capital. And then people are going to start looking forward to, okay, well, who is the next standard bearer? You're going to have the establishment Republicans try to dump MAGA in a ditch because that's not what their backers want at all. And so they're going to put a lot of money, Ken Griffin or somebody's going to throw hundreds of millions at somebody like DeSantis or whatever, and that's going to be the establishment candidate. Then they're probably going to run other establishment candidates. There's going to be a power vacuum, probably some knife fights. J.D. Vance probably should be the heir apparent, but he's going to make it different and make it his own, and it's going to be different. And then the Republicans are probably going to try and do everything possible to shut him out. And you have this very, very, very powerful machine that people, I think, were hoping Trump would be able to fix. And the Republicans are doing DC stuff more than Republicans ever have. They really, really, really are. That one big beautiful bill, Trump might like it, but that just reeks of like a K Street abomination. It orders in there, but I don't think anybody really feels good about it. It was only net +5 when we asked if people approve or disapprove of it passing. Only, I think, low 70% of Republicans approved of it. Independents did not. And 4-1, Republicans said it didn't cut enough, and there was really no headline. That's the problem, is that DC is going to keep passing these massive bills because they have to use, this process of reconciliation because they're unwilling to change the rules to do anything for America. And that's how they keep getting paid. They get all this pork shoved into these things, and there's no headline win. It's like, here's this massive bill. Well, what did it do? Well, it's going to make your tax situation better. Well, like how? Like what? It's like it didn't convert at all into any uptick. In fact, Trump's numbers were plunging at the time. I don't think it was all of it. And so you have this situation where the Republicans suck. They're going to suck even worse. And voters gave Trump and Republicans a chance together. And now they're looking and they're saying, well, I might still support Trump, but he's not going to be on the ticket anymore. And you're left with Republicans and a huge knife fight over the spoils of the MAGA corpse. And it's really tough to predict where that's going to go. But what I can predict is Republicans currently don't have apparently any other plan than to keep riding Trump's coattails and to redistrict. Like what? And they're still discussing now. They acknowledge that they failed at getting his appointments through. And they're still having introspective chats about whether or not we should get rid of this blue slip veto thing, or whether we should on allowing him to make recess appointments. There's just unforced errors everywhere. It's perverse.
Wish could change.
I'm sorry, I've just lost.
Listen. We're not trying to put lipstick on a pig here, and nor are we trying to put silver linings on dark clouds. Your take then, I guess, on Texas's redistricting very quickly here. I know you've been posting about it. You said that Texas is trying to save the GOP majority. Is that what you believe is happening here?
The only plausible plan that I've heard how the Republicans plan to, your viewers might not know this, but almost in every circumstance, when a party gets all three, branches of the government, the Senate, the House, and the presidency, in the following midterm, they lose it. And so history tells us that the Republicans are probably going to lose the House. And so that's expected. Everybody in D.C. expects it. They're probably committee head positions. They're trying to figure out what special commissions they're going to launch. The first one's going to be Adam Schiff leading an Epstein commission. They're already planning that. And so if Trump wants to upset that...
Stop scrolling. You won't believe this moving hack. It's almost too good to be true. Imagine getting your...
leading an Epstein commission. They're already planning that. And so if Trump wants to upset that, well, he needs a plan because the Republicans don't have one. You have Texas redistricting, Ohio's going to redistrict. That'll probably pick up some seats. But at the same time, you have money dumping into Act Blue. You have all these Democrats all over the country running as moderates. They're going to get all kinds of advertising money. And so what's the plan? Well, they aren't putting out good legislation. They're not going to change the way D.C. operates. They're not really helping Trump. They don't appear to be breaking a sweat. We asked, I think 2 months ago now, Trump was handed a mandate. Do you agree or disagree that Republicans in Congress are not delivering on Trump's mandate? 60% of Republicans agreed. Only 38% of Trump 2024 voters have a very favorable impression of the Republican Party. That's super low. Only 16% of Republicans, I think the number was, have an excellent rate Congress doing excellent. It's a Republican Congress, only 16% excellent. So again, that's not great. It's basically where we're at. It's like status quo. It's like and the pendulum is just going to swing back and forth. And that's kind of sad because right direction polling, as you know, was hitting records. 55% thought Trump was going to be a golden age for America. We thought we were going to get a massive addressing of the waste, fraud, and abuse in government. And it's like it's being squandered for regular DC garbage. It hasn't changed at all. And you can't excoriate Mike Johnson for this. He didn't write that 3,000 pages. In fact, Arrington probably didn't write it. Who wrote the 3,000 pages? Where'd they come from? That got
lobbyists, man. The lobbyists.
Yeah, obviously, right. So people hate business as usual in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
That's like a plus 60 issue.
Oof.
They want massive change. They don't want.
It's brutal out there. I have a lot of hope that there's going to be some major economic turnarounds. That the question, like that, the administration. I know, as a matter of fact, the administration has heard us technically and very fundamentally on the Epstein issue. That they're doing a lot of work in order to shore up that ship. And everybody's coming on this program saying that they're going to start prosecutions here of these deep state actors. So hopefully that can hold the side up, Mark. But thank you for coming on and sharing the data. Everybody needs to follow Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, who has just incredibly accurate data and who sometimes comes on here to do touchdown dances and sometimes comes on here to ring the warning bell and sound the foghorn. And so, Mark, we appreciate your honesty. And thank you very much for all of it.
I'm not always like this. The bell needs to be rung right now. This is a warning bell, in my opinion. The turning point.
You got to hear it. Here we go. Thank you, Mark. Well, joining us right now in order to respond to all that is a member of Congress, Barry Loudermilk from Georgia. He's on the Financial Services Committee. Maybe he has something to say about how Congress is spending their time and money. Please welcome Barry Loudermilk to the program. Congressman, we had a technical difficulty with our last guest, and that pushed him a couple minutes, so we apologize.
All right. It's just a pleasure to be with you.
All right. Well, I'm not sure if you heard our last guest, but he was talking about the approval ratings for Republicans in Congress and how they haven't cut enough and haven't changed enough of Washington business as usual. I wanted to get you perhaps to respond to that. What's your take, Congressman?
Well, I agree with everything Mark was saying in there, is that there is the perception out there and there's a reality that we haven't done as much that needs to be done. Part of it is the culture that has to change in Washington, D.C. and also within Congress. Another aspect of it is, look, the founders designed our legislative branch to be inefficient. It is much harder to pass a piece of legislation than in a lot of other countries, and that is by design. But on the other hand, there was a lot of stuff that we do starts off with good intentions, and even the big, beautiful bill. Most of the really, as I would call it, good stuff, the things that I was really looking for, was stripped out by the Senate parliamentarian. And so you saw a much more watered down version. Look, hey, the majority of it, if you can cut something, let's cut something. There's a lot more that could have been done. We do get another pass at reconciliation, possibly a couple more. But we have to, we really have to stand up, and we have to be bold. And I'm one of those that, look, I've been very frustrated with how slow Congress has been going this year. Trump came out of the gate very bold with executive orders, and we've been slow following up on those. Hopefully when things kick off again in September, we can start moving a really bold agenda, at least through the House. Senate's a little bit more of a challenge because they do have the cloture vote. You have to get 60 of the folks over there, and we only have a very small margin. We don't have 60 Republican votes over there, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be as bold as we can in the House, at least to set the stage. And you do have some Democrats that have kind of caught on to the mandate from the last election, and so they're a little more willing to play ball. We've seen some of that in the House, but we got to get over the forced errors that we have, especially in Congress, to move the ball forward as fast as the American people really expected and needed to be moved.
Yes. So these are really powerful committees and obviously control a lot of the purse strings. And so I got a question for you about this rescission package with the DOJ cuts for PBS and NPR. I think everybody, especially in this audience, cheered from the rafters over that. It's something we've been promised for a long time, and I want to give you and your colleagues credit for finally doing that and getting NPR and state government media defunded and for following up on that promise. But what I think a lot of people are looking at when it comes to the actual numbers is going, well, $9 billion, while that a crumb. And so how do you cut more? How do you get more Doge cuts actually enacted? That was like exorcising a demon, Congressman, getting just that cut alone, right? I'm sure I've only seen the half of it, right?
Right. Well, I think when the people who are hesitant to this will see that the world didn't come to an end after we cut NPR and we cut some of these other things, U.S.A, and that there's more cuts to come. I think they're going to see that, it wasn't as bad, even in their own poll numbers, because look, for us to fund a hyper-partisan, and that's what NPR was. I mean, it was not public radio. It was an extension of the Democrat and the far left echelon of our country. And so for my taxpayer dollars, your taxpayer dollars going to this type of nonsense, most Americans see that. I think even Democrats would see that, is if you had a public funded news outlet that was pushing the conservative right agenda at taxpayer dollars. I think they would see that as well. The fact is, you're still going to have Big Bird and Ernie. They're not even part of NPR anymore. You're still going to have PBS. Hopefully this will bring them back into the middle and that they can do some real reporting and real content that isn't politically biased.
Yeah, I think that ship sailed, frankly, Congressman, doing this all day. They've lost any capacity to even compete without federal dollars propping them up. And it's such an insult. On this program, they're young and they're scrappy, and we build it all from scratch, and we get destroyed in taxes. And it's hard to dollars, right, in order to effectively run communist propaganda. A bailout from the government, it makes our blood boil. So anyway, we're happy for that, and we're thankful for that. As you heard with Mark Mitchell, again, Rasmussen's a great pollster. Right. I'm sure you've seen their polls before. He's really frustrated about accountability. People hoaxes that have been spawned on the American people. I want to talk to you about one that you particularly have done an enormous amount of work on, and that's January 6th. You wrote this January 6th report, and we're really thankful for it. We've referenced it a ton on the program, and we're honored to have you on the show to talk about it. What you've done with this January 6th report is really something, but it hasn't, with all due respect, it hasn't led to really any major consequences from any of the major players. You detail how the January 6th committee deleted all of their emails and deleted all their text messages. Liz Cheney is kind of very publicly was witness tampering with Cassidy Hutchinson. The pipe bomber, who the hell is that? What was that all about? And so I want to just get your take here, sir, as the...
You need parts? We got parts. Product availability. Just one part.
Get your take here, sir, as the base screams out for something to happen other than strongly worded letters. What happens next here?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm more confident that something will happen. As you know, the Congress, the legislative branch, we don't really have enforcement powers. That's the executive branch. And during the first 2 years of our investigation, 80% of my time was spent trying to find documents that were being hidden. We had no cooperation really out of the administration, the Biden administration, until we forced it. We had to force it with threats of subpoena, and fortunately, there were several brave souls to step forward as whistleblowers that got us into the right direction, and we surprised a lot of people with the documentation that we were able to uncover. And based on that documentation, we were able to make a referral to the Department of Justice to look into some of the actions, especially with Liz Cheney, who admittedly that she was back-channeling communication with Cassidy Hutchinson, while Cassidy was already being represented by an attorney, and Liz even acknowledges that in their communication that this is inappropriate, but she continued doing it. And so and basically only use Liz Cheney's own standard to make the referral to the Department of Justice. When she was part of the select committee on January 6th, or as Trump likes to call it, the unselect committee, she made a criminal referral on Donald Trump because during their investigation, Trump attempted, according to them, to call one of their witnesses. He never even made contact with them. It was just he attempted to contact someone who is testifying before the select committee. So Liz Cheney proceeded to make a criminal referral for witness tampering. We just used that same standard. Not only did Liz Cheney attempt to contact Cassidy Hutchinson, she did contact Cassidy Hutchinson and continued to communicate with her, even though she acknowledged it was inappropriate. And so we just use that same standard. We turned that over to the Department of Justice. Now it's in their hands. And one of the things that was a discussion with the part with your last guest that I was able to hear that part of it is the FBI is very cooperative with us. At this point, we've got a friendly administration. They're not hiding documents. They're actually working right now with things that they're investigating. President Trump came out with an executive order. I want you to look into these things, look into January 6th. And this went across the board to all the departments, because when you look at January 6th, there wasn't much of the federal government that wasn't involved in some level that we found out during our investigation. So from Department of Homeland Security, DEA, you got the FBI, DOJ, Department of Defense, all of them have been instructed to on January 6th, as well as the COVID crisis, as well as the 2020 elections. And so as they're digging into documents, we're communicating with the FBI. We're in process of setting up the committee. Unfortunately, it took 7 months into this Congress to get it set up. But we're already working hard. And in September, I think you're gonna start seeing a lot more production. And as we work more with the administration, I hope that we do see people being held accountable. But there's another aspect to this accountability. There's a lot of people that are still, we've always called it the deep state, that are well embedded. And I think the departments are doing a pretty good job of getting rid of those that they can determine are part of the weaponization of government that's been across the federal government. But part of our investigation, I believe, is going to uncover even more participants in that. And so I think that's not having this investigation going for 7 months. I mean, we basically came to a dead stop in December. And it's taken until now for Congress to set this back up again. Yeah, we lost a lot of time. We could have been a lot further down the road. But again, with a friendly administration, I think we're going to be able to hit the ground running.
Well, great. Again, thank you for reinforcing sort of what Mark was saying, is that people just want this to happen and happen fast. And they want people to get up off their asses and get to work. And we feel like the grandmothers who just simply looked at the Capitol building that day, given 22 months prison sentences for a seditious conspiracy. And we said, what the hell is going on here? I think I'm an optimistic person at heart, Congressman, so I have high hopes. There is one thing that is just in conclusion here I gotta ask you about, because we've spent hours on the show talking about it with the people who are in charge of the FBI. And so it's not like they don't know that this is a real problem. We even had FBI agents on, Congressman, talking to us about the J6 pipe bomber, and a specific FBI agent that was on the program saying that they knew who it was, and then they were told, shut it down. You're not allowed to investigate any further. What the hell is going on with that? Some of the smartest minds have told us that that is the key to everything, finding the identity of the pipe bomber. Do you have any information on the pipe bomber and what that op was?
We don't have any new revelations right now, other than, but because I've been out of the loop legally, I have not been able to engage directly with the FBI. Even though Dan Bongino and I are longtime friends, we are communicating, and I am being told they have some more information to hand over to me as soon as this committee is stood up. But I agree with you. The pipe bomb is a key to a lot of other things involved. There's several questions that we're still investigating, like the gallows. What in the world was gallows? Who put up the gallows? All of our evidence shows that it wasn't the MAGA folks that put it up, but who was it? But the pipe bomb, there's just so many elements of that is very interesting, to say the least. I mean, you have supposedly what people believed at the time was a live explosive device, but yet the police are letting people walk by it, right? There's no brought this up around last year after Trump's attempted assassination in Pennsylvania. There was a significant problem with the Secret Service at the time because you did have Kamala Harris, who was the vice president-elect, who had Secret Service protection, was at the Democrat committee headquarters where one of the pipe bombs was placed. That was placed the night before. So an advanced team of the Secret Service comes to do an advanced sweep of the DCCC, which the pipe bomb was actually left in an area to be found, right? It's just under a park bench. The agent walks by it with a K9 twice, never sees it, never hits on it. So how effective is your advanced teams when you can't even pick up a pipe bomb that was left in an area to be found? And then there was just so much incompetence, as best I can explain, even the handling going forward. The investigation part of FBI was basically non-existent from what we can see. We are investigating some supposedly corrupt data that the FBI kept saying, yeah, the identity of the pipe bomber was from this data. We were getting his cell phone data from one of the major carriers, but it was corrupted when we got it. Well, it only took them months to figure out it was corrupted, right? So there's some questions regarding that I hope that we're going to get some answers to very early on. But the big difference now than the previous 2 years of my investigation is we now have a cooperative administration who is not going to try to cover up evidence and hide evidence as the previous administration did, but they're going to assist us in uncovering this because we have got to find who the culprits are. If you're going to clean up the government, you got to know who they are. And look, you're already seeing Tulsi Gabbard's doing some incredible work. We've been working closely with them. You've got the FBI that's coming out with information. And John is another close friend, and all of them have committed to working very closely with us. But when you look at the weaponization, when you look at the Steele dossier and all of the Russia hoax, there is a real parallel in the way they operated and the way that Pelosi's Select Committee operated, because they had a narrative that Trump was going to be behind all this, and they just manipulated their evidence to meet that narrative. That's why we had such a hard time finding data, because any information that didn't support that final outcome was suppressed, and there were suppressed that did not support their narrative than what they did report.
Well, we say Godspeed to you. You've done good work on January 6th. You're the only person that's really tried to rip the bark off of what happened. And we say to you, Congressman, you'll always have a spot on this, an open booking on this show to come on and explain your findings. We want to get to the bottom of this. We believe that it is as critical as any of the scandals that are going on, and perhaps the most critical because it directly led to the destruction of so many innocent Americans and so many patriots who were peacefully protesting that day. We won't forget them. So thank you, Congressman.
Anytime.
Thank you, Congressman. Please follow Congressman Barry Loudermilk from the great state of Georgia, who's going to find the truth about January 6th once and for all with the assistance of the FBI and the Trump administration. Godspeed, Congressman.
Thank you, Manny.
Lately, I've honestly been crushing my dating game, and it's all thanks to HIMS. HIMS offers a wide range of ED treatments.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, interesting bookings back to back. We get the congressman to respond. We get a lot of criticism about Congress, and we get the congressman to respond. All right, well, at least we're having an open discussion. Having open conversation is something that we do often on our Patriot mobile devices that we carry with us throughout the land. This is a way that we stay connected to our home. We crisscross the nation. We got a very exciting week of travel planned next week. It's going to be wild. We've got some fun things to expose. We'll also be in Orlando this weekend doing a live event with Byron Donalds, who I believe is going to be our next governor here in the great state of Florida. Anyway, the point is that we take Patriot Mobile with us everywhere. We wouldn't choose this as the backbone of our company if they were not rock solid. Patriot Mobile, ladies and gentlemen, the only Christian conservative wireless provider available on all three major networks. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team can make the switch for you in minutes. Let's freaking go. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call nice and Patriot. Use the promo code Benny to get a free month of service. Switch today. It's patriotmobile.com/Benny or call line 72-PATRIOT. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we got some rock and rolling financial news. Whew, it seems like there's, Mark Mitchell was on like with the warning bells, and I was like, whoa, man, Mark, this is dark, dude. I'm glad that we have our next guest booked. The only way to really pull yourself out of a cycle like this, if you agree that it is a bad cycle. I don't particularly agree. I think there's like ups and downs. And there's sort of like a summer lull. I think everything's going to be fine. Mark was a bit of a doomer, but whatever. It's going to be good economic news. That's how you pull yourself up from your bootstraps, and nobody cares. If the economy is doing great, then like nobody cares, and the wheels keep moving, right? And if that's what can happen, well, then I think we'll be fine, ladies and gentlemen. And joining us right now to talk about it is a financial markets expert. He's the CEO of Alio Capital. His name is Joseph Gradante, and he joins us live now. Oh, do we have breaking news? All right. Okay. Maybe we'll talk some breaking news as well. Breaking news on the economy. Welcome to the show, Joseph. Have a rocking at 3% growth for Q2. That's a major positive.
I like what Tucker said at Turning Point. How much can we really extrapolate from GDP? I think great change brings great opportunity. I think that's the key. That's my key takeaway, right? Because at Alio, we're focused on macro investing. So, yeah, I think overall that's pretty positive. I think the Fed did the right thing by not cutting rates yet. But I do think we will see a rate cut later on in the year.
That was a very interesting back and forth with President Trump and Jerome Powell. I don't, pretend to be any type of financial expert or whiz, but it was like a scene from the office this week. What do you think the takeaway was from that? Do you think Jerome's going to cut rates?
I do. I do think we will see a rate cut this year. I don't think we'll get two. I think we'll get one, either in September or December. And, but I think, he's got to be careful because we don't know what kind of inflation we're going to see from the tariffs. And I think, the Fed's, it's doing its job, right? And presidents don't always like when the Fed does its job. But I do think we will see a rate cut this year, but I think Powell has to hold back a little bit and be independent. That is the role of the Fed.
Yeah. So it's something that is quite interesting to me is the sort of striking balance of obviously the economic numbers, but also what happened with the tariffs. And that seems to be the single most critical element to President Trump's economic policy, and he's been using it as a weapon, and it's been working. He just signed that EU deal that was a bombshell deal, and it's been so far zero inflation given the tariffs. Do you see the same thing? Do you see the same thing in the markets? It seems like Trump has won on the tariff war.
Well, I think, it's easy, the optics so far, right? It's easy for it to appear that way, but we have to see what happens with China. That's the elephant in the room. And I think, this 90-day pause, we don't know what's going to come out of that until we have guidance on to do anything with rates.
Yeah, how do you think that is going to shake out? We had a China expert on yesterday, Kyle Bass, who was explaining that they are in a very bad situation, and it seems like Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is looking to extort that situation. How do you think it's going to play?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good idea to back China into a corner, right? But our job at Alio is to help people prepare for no matter how it goes. So it would really be, I think, premature for me to say.
So here's the headline. That is my favorite headline of the week. It's from Axios. The Trump
Have you heard? Reading glasses are outdated. A new technology for the elderly. Nothingness is here. From now on, you can play with your cell phone, watch TV, and work on the computer every day without your eyes getting tired. Because after many years of work, a professor at the University of Munich has developed.
So here's the headline. That is my favorite headline of the week. It's from Axios. The Trump-dominated global economy. The U.S. gets plenty, but gives nothing in return. Like, well, that's I don't know if they meant that as an own, but that is a damn good headline, especially if you're America first. Do you predict that that's gonna continue? Do you predict that we're gonna see a bit of a rocket ship in the economy over the next couple of years?
So I am extremely bullish, right? And in general, I'm not a fan of predicted markets. I think it's time in the markets, not time in the markets. But I am extremely bullish going forward, just because I think we have a once-in-a-lifetime president. I mean, you just got guidance on fiscal policy with the big, beautiful bill, and following that up with guidance on monetary policy. He will get his guy eventually. We know that in the next 11 months, right? Mm-hmm. And when that happens, we will get, even if we don't get them in Q4, which I think we will. I do think we will have a great Q4 because I think we'll get rate cuts in September or December. But even if that didn't happen, rare that you get both of those things aligned in fiscal policy and monetary policy back to back. So it's going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity to have a portfolio of really, traditionally risk off and risk on assets that you wouldn't have wanted to have in any other period in history.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is why we partner with Alio Capital. I've personally invested. And Joseph, we appreciate this product because it does help in some of the macro and micro senses make sure that your portfolio is properly suited for the time and place when these major earth-shattering events, which happen seemingly on a daily basis. It's almost exhausting. It's great for business, Joseph, but it's exhausting sometimes to cover. There's a new bombshell every single week.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, investing off of geopolitics, that is macro investing. And so, following these moves weekly, daily, monthly, it's tiresome, on the investor. And so, we'll do it for you and we're happy to take your money. But if you want to learn and do it yourself, that's what our product allows you to do. And, we're really, we believe economic freedom is a prerequisite to political freedom. And, and so it's really incumbent, I think, upon, the younger people to start really taking control of their futures. And I think you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with President Trump in office to do that. But it's up to you to stay diligent and follow what's going on in markets on a daily basis, right? So it's up to the individual how far they want to take it. And, that's what the product, it's really whether you're hands off or you want to do it yourself, will help you either way. But yeah, most people don't want to read a 600-page book on macro investing. So we've pioneered this behavior-led UX that's not gamified. And, and through that and through what you have right there, that is the macro dashboard. And if you notice, it says on the screen there, in deflation plus growth, inflation plus growth, inflation. I can't see what you have there. But yeah, those are the 4 different regime types. And based on the regime type that you're in, you can look down and see which sectors and which asset classes and which industries traditionally, historically do well. I mean, the whole reason why we study history in school is because history repeats itself. And so, what better place is there to be a student of history than in capital markets, right? And to look at fiscal and monetary policy and traditionally how they've affected different asset classes and sectors and industries and position yourself to profit from that. That is the idea of Value Capital.
Well, I got to tell you, as long as you're able to lock in and as long as you're able to be wise with the capital that you've been given and also get those rates lowered, which is very important for young people to get started, buy homes, get their hands on the American dream, start families. You can't start a family in a one-room apartment, or it's a lot tougher. Yeah, I think that we'll be rip-roaring. Thank you for your sunny outlook here. We've had an interesting show. Joseph, you're welcome back. Anytime. Enrolling in the golden age.
Be greedy when others are fearful, right?
That's exactly right. That's the American way. That's you're right. Okay, well, thank you, Joseph. Godspeed, man. Breaking news here. I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about with our last guest, given the fact that he was on to talk about finances and the economic numbers. But here is the breaking news that, oh, well, I'm not going to miss a chance to do a cool breaking news stinger. Here we go. Breaking news. Get a new breaking news stinger. We got to get, come on, boys. Come on, boys. All right. We've been using that one for years. We got to get a new one. Kash Patel found thousands of sensitive documents related to the origins of the Trump-Russia probe buried in burn bags in a secret room inside of the Bureau, sources familiar told me. Patel found thousands of these sensitive Trump-Russia probe docs inside of a burn bag. So they're trying to destroy this evidence. Kash Patel has turned all of the documents over to the Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley. Goodness. Well, Kash has certainly spoken about this. He talked about this on the Joe Rogan podcast, that they found things like holed away inside of secret rooms in the FBI. So we're going to investigate this. This is breaking right now, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can talk with Tulsi Gabbard about it. She'll be on our show live tomorrow. We're going to have Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. It couldn't be a more perfect booking because there's going to be, maybe this is just the start, but there's going to be some major news today. It's going to be very, very interesting. Hopefully, Tulsi Gabbard will be bringing the flamethrower and the heat and melt our faces off. Something that doesn't melt my face off every single night when I'm using it, including last night after going on a bit of a tear myself on Chris Cuomo's show, is the Bond Charge Red Light Mask. The Bond Charge Red Light Mask is a fantastic wellness resource for me, something that I use to chill out at the end of the night. It's something that I use. It has like a sauna-like soothing for my endorphins. It helps regenerate skin. It's great for your skin, but also it's something that is fantastic for just your basic manly ethos. Bond Charge's Red Light Face Mask is how I unwind at night. Use it for about 10 to 20 minutes. And, well, helps me sleep well. Makes me feel recharged, and I don't got any room for a sauna. We barely have room for our 4 kids at our house. So, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and get yourself one today. Go to bondcharge.com/Benny and use the coupon code Benny to save 15%. That's BONCH/Benny. Use the coupon code Benny to save 15. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Okay. I think we have one clip from the Chris Cuomo, speaking of face melters, from Chris Cuomo last night. It's my favorite. It's there's this douche. His name is Brian Tyler Cohen. Again, he's Timu Benny Johnson. He even dresses like me. He's totally astroturfed. The left took all of their USAID money, whatever they had left. They took it from MSNBC. That no longer is a useful propaganda tool. CNN has no longer a useful propaganda tool. And they pump it into these other lesser creators, to try and astroturf their next Joe Rogan or whatever. And so this guy is really fun to just go into battle. There's a debate show. And it's like 20 against 1 because it's Chris Cuomo plus all of his producers in his ear, plus, this guy. But ladies and gentlemen, this is called In the Arena. We humiliated him by forcing him to eat his words and eat the policies of the Democrat Party, which, of course, are racist against white people, endemically so. And so this was the post yesterday that went pretty viral, and this is the clip. What I forced him to do is, since Chris Cuomo is out of New York City and Zorhan Mandami is a very...
In fact, in clinical trials, the average weight loss was 20% of total body weight. That's 50% more.
Is since Chris Cuomo is out of New York City and Zorhan Mandami is a very big name in the Democrat Party right now, I I forced Brian Tyler Cohen to acknowledge that he's okay with taxing white people more. To agree to this, which is great. I mean, listen, tell us who you are. The DOJ says that's criminal and racist, but I'm glad that you agree with it. Here we go. Let me ask you a quick question. You're saying that I want to stoke a race war. Well, Zoran Mandami, who wants to be the mayor of New York City and is the odds-on favorite mayor of New York City, Democrat candidate for mayor, says that he wants to tax white people more. Are you in favor of that, Brian?
I don't even know what you're talking about. It doesn't even sound real.
Platform. This is wild. It's a campaign.
His campaign platform is to tax white people more than non-white people.
What? No. In the awkward position of defending Zoran Mandami, I'm going to go to break. But he didn't say tax white people more. He said we have to look to shift the tax burden to whiter neighborhoods that are more affluent and shift the burden from lower income benefits. Look, it didn't play well. Benny's right to jump on it, but I got to correct the record, even though I don't cover the race because my brother's in it.
This was so much fun to ask Brian about Zoran Mandami wanting to tax whiter people in white neighborhoods more.
I clarified it.
Do you agree with that, Brian?
I clarified
on his campaign website, and he doubled down on it on MSNBC. I'm shocked that you don't know that. I thought you were somebody who
You're going to ask me. You're going to ask me if I'm in favor of taxing more affluent communities at a higher rate. Yes. People at a higher rate.
Can you guys both agree?
Very quickly, I'm glad that we got that. Fine, you're entitled to your opinion. I think that it's wrong, and publicly said that may be racist and maybe criminal, but that's okay to admit that, Brian.
Well, then let me ask you about this. Let me ask you this.
Given the last, just really fast, since we're on Zoran Mandami and Chris can't answer, we're asked the question.
I never even talk about him because my brother's running against him,
in the wake of shooting in New York, that the police should be defunded because he believes that they're not queer enough. Those are his exact words. And he mocked NYPD officers crying in their cop cars. Do you agree with that?
Do I agree that we should defund the police? No. Let me ask you a question.
No, wait, hold on a second. I don't want to hear any more of your questions. No more questions.
All right. Wish we'd gotten to this earlier in the show. Whatever. Here it is from the website. I should have printed this out. Klein, why didn't I have this printed out? I could have held it up. That was stupid. I should have had it printed out. We'll work on it. Like bringing props. Like bringing, definitely bring the gun to the knife fight, right? Shift the tax burden. This is straight from the dude's website. He's a dirty Marxist. Shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to the more expensive homes in whiter neighborhoods. There it is, dumbass. That's what you just endorsed. It's illegal, of course. It's racist. It's morally wrong. It's morally unjustifiable. You, of course, couldn't swap out any other race for white there without getting completely canceled. Do our part to hold it down and to hold these people and humiliate them on live TV, which we were proud to do. It's bad for CNN to call a black terrorist a white guy. And I don't know why this is even remotely controversial, but since Chris Cuomo was a CNN anchor and CNN was doing this, I was really excited for the opportunity to explain to Chris that what you're going to do is get white people killed. So if you tell a building that's getting shot up that it's a white guy shooting the building when it's a black guy doing it, well, you're going to get white people killed. You're going to get more people killed no matter what the color of their skin is. But then you're going to put a mark on every white guy working in that building. That's, of course, unjustifiable. It is completely evil. And CNN knew precisely what they were doing right here.
You guys both know me, you know my background. What happened on CNN with the description of the perp was a mistake, okay? John Miller, who is one of the best reporters I've ever been around in my life, especially when it comes to the cops. The guy ran NYPD public affairs. You know, he ran FBI communications, LAPD communications. This guy's as wired with the cops as you'll get. They were wrong. Picture came out. They corrected the description. You say it's a race war, Benny. That bothers me. Why shouldn't it?
Well, because this is the photograph The police scanner in New York, according to eyewitnesses, said that he was either a Middle Eastern or Indian man. And because when you give incorrect descriptions of suspects who are committing mass murder, you may well cause more murders, right, Chris? If the cops or people see a white man and think that he's the murderer, well, this is incorrect. And you could lead to real tragedy by doing this. Now, everyone saw this photo. This was a photo that was up nigh on 5 minutes after the shooting started. And so this was widely circulated on social media and on CNN's own airwaves. I'm so glad that we're talking about this, Chris. I was wanting to ask you about this. On CNN's own airwaves, there's a responsibility to ensure that the public is informed. Now, does this look like a white man?
This is simply the best moving hack you will find. So after accepting a job offer a couple weeks before the start...
Now, does this look like a white man?
To me, no. But I don't think John Miller had said, in fact, I don't think, I know, they hadn't seen the photo. That's why I didn't understand it. And then they corrected,
the photo, Chris.
But then they
Chris, he
corrected
referenced
the
photo.
description.
He says this photo's gone out to, if you watch the clip, and I have,
Right,
you'll see that he tells Aaron Burnett that this photo has gone out to all the police officers, and he's describing who this individual is. This was widely circulated on social media.
But Benny, you
so if he's
said
describing
they
this
want
photo,
a
you have to
race
assume
war.
he's talking about this photo.
Benny, you said they want a race war.
No. I didn't say that. Hold on. I said that when you're doing something like describing an individual who's perpetrating a mass shooting, you should get the description correct because it could save lives. And I think that CNN has a responsibility to do that.
Of course, the guy was, the guy didn't hurt anybody else. He was already dead. But CNN wants a race war, and they're begging to
He
get
did
it.
kill five people. He killed 5 people, right? So
I
New York City
understand
Police
that he did it, but I'm saying
officer.
that's not what it was about. I just
Killed
feel
a
like
lot.
this is part of what I'm talking about, Brian, and we've talked about this before.
Did we beat Chris Cuomo? And Brian Tyler Cohen? And all of the producers at News Nation? All in one spell swoop. We're actually thankful that Chris had us on his show, and we're proud to do it anytime. And I did run home and put my kids to bed, and like literally minutes before I was there, minutes before that, I was reading Dr. Seuss books to my kids, before bedtime. And well, you got to wear the hats, right? And so that was fun, and we look forward to doing it more. I think we're going to be doing it quite a bit more. Iron sharpens iron. Got to do more debates. Got to get out and break some things. Ladies and gentlemen, we're thankful for the power to do that. You give us that power, and we are just never going to take the foot off the gas around here. We're going to keep going. All gas, no brakes. Our verse of the day, Psalms 27. Before we dive into more of this news, this Kash Patel thing is really big. In fact, Erica Knight, we were just talking about her. She just texted me. We've got a lot of stuff to jump into. Just in time for Tulsi. It's perfect. Let's lock in with our verse of the day today. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is my strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalms 27. Make sure that you're reading the New Testament, and then make sure that you read Psalms. I'm no biblical scholar. I go to a very simple Bible-believing church. I got to tell you, man, just like read them in tandem, and you can see just the perfection of Scripture. And the Psalms are very comforting, and they're guidance, and they're all pointing to the promises of the New Testament. And it's verses like this that sort of get you through tough times and get you through what the world's going to throw at you, because we live in a sunken world. It's an imperfect place. There are evil people out there. You got to meet evil with force, with equal and greater force. And that equal and greater force for us is always going to come from the salt and light of the Scriptures and from our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to fight with you. It's hump day. We're going to get through it. Here's our official promo here for Tulsi Gabbard, rocking and rolling. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we're excited for this. Thank you for rolling with us. And a reminder, in the end, we win. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
Guess what, man?
All right,
Alright, well, it looks like no one's really here besides the liftards. No one's really talking. Stream. I'm going to relax. Hopefully you're all paying attention. Everything is gonna be just perfectly fine. Well, just gotta believe in God, man. We gotta get out there and fight. Can't stop. We know the liftard. I hope you're really paying attention, man. Paying attention to the truth there. And take it in there. Your fucking Democrat Party, man. They're done. They are done. So, I don't know, man. God bless y'all.